The cricket continues at McDonald Park in Geelong. National Inclusion Cricket Championships and the third and final match. And we've had two pretty one-sided games so far. The New South Wales and South Australia death match earlier today. That was reduced because of rain. 13 overs aside, and New South Wales won comfortably despite a reasonably competitive score in 13 overs by South Australia of 4 for 124. New South Wales winning their third title in a row inside 12 overs, 1 for 125. And then the New South Wales bowling ripped South Australia apart, going for 3 titles in a row in the Deaf Grand Final. They were 3 for 3, never really recovered. Bowled out for 64 inside 15 overs, and New South Wales won it comfortably. It's now Victoria and South Australia again for the second year in a row in the International Intellectually Disabled competition. And Victoria did win it narrowly last year. South Australia won it the year before. And it was a terrific final last year. It should be a terrific final again this year. My name's Dan Lonigan. Darren Parkin's with me. And also joining us, the man who puts most of this together, is involved heavily, particularly with the national teams of the deaf, the blind and intellectually disabled, the disability and inclusion specialist from Cricket Australia, Aaron Dradwidge. Aaron, great to have you with us. Great that we're down here again today. And how important is this concept for Cricket Australia?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it is so important. We've started it up 4 years ago, and it's just grown every year. And the great thing is the participation impact we're seeing at a grassroots level, where more kids with disabilities, because of the promotion that's been happening, are playing the game. So that's what we want to see.
Good that the rain cleared too. Obviously, it nearly destroyed the first game of the day. We had it reduced to 13 overs a side, but it has allowed us, touch wood. It's been overcast most of the day, but hopefully we get a full day's play in from here.
So Gavin Hicks, who starts off, he did it last year, bowling off spin. Then he keeps pretty well, and then he virtually dragged Victoria home with some magnificent batting.
So it's McKay keeping whilst he's got the ball.
Correct.
Is that right? Yep.
And Forsyth and McQueen, who's the star player for South Australia, got 84, not out of 54 balls last year, and got 83 the previous year in pretty warm conditions. It was even warmer last year. I remember, Aaron, we started in about 40, well, we couldn't have, but it was high 30s. By the time the match was finishing, the blind match, it was 44 degrees.
Stark and they had contrast
to,
today.
Exactly. They had to delay the start of the deaf final, and it was reduced until the weather had come down 6 or 7 degrees, and then the cool change came in, but it was still pretty warm. But Gavin Hicks was fantastic. Don't know why he needs the sunglasses, but anyway, he'll kick off proceedings, and straight away defended from the crease by Forsyth. And there's no run, and he's been a wonderful contributor, hasn't he, for the Vic ID team for a long time, Gavin Hicks?
Yeah, he's been the captain in previous years, and he's just been a great contributor at an Australian level as well.
They won't score. He's landing them on the spot dash straight away, Gavin Hicks.
Certainly is. Just look at his fields. He's got a mid-on, mid-off cover point, sort of a gully, fine legs up in the circle. Fielder just behind square, and deep mid-wicket boundary and long on.
It's knocked away into the onside. Forsyth wants to run, but doesn't run. Don't see too many players, do you, bowl their off-spinners? And I know last year he bowled his full quota.
Straight off the top.
And then he became the wicket keeper. Whether he does that again today remains to be seen, but it certainly worked. He was fairly miserly. That's a shot that clears the infield. He gave that a bit more air, forcing Forsyth to loft it, and he does over mid-wicket. And the first runner's on the board, none for one in the opening over. South Australia was sent into bat by Victoria.
Such an effective T20 weapon is opening the bowling with spin.
Yeah.
We've seen it in basically every level of the game.
Fourth year of the 3 disciplines, if you like, getting together and becoming the National Cricket Inclusion Championships and working a treat here in Geelong. This is a flatter ball, and McQueen, who's probably seen as the star South Australian player, so it's the star Victorian player to the star South Australian player. We saw a bit of that in the blind match earlier today, Dash, didn't we, with Palmer of South Australia bowling to Lindsay Heaven and vice versa. And McQueen, well, he was trying to flick that one away, and that got a little bit of bounce. Wicketkeeper couldn't take it cleanly. I'm not sure whether there was any bat. There wasn't. I reckon that was off the helmet. It's called a leg by.
Yeah, surprising amount of bounce in the offie as well, which completes that over. So no wicket for 2, but that'd But one thing we saw, perhaps it's almost come sort of off the elbow. It's almost hit him sort of in the wild swing, trying to hoink that around the corner. He's almost sort of dislocated his shoulder. He swung that hard at that.
He did. He's a very good player, though. Very classy.
He got 147 earlier in the week.
Did he really?
79 balls.
Is that right?
Yeah, the day after Stoinis did it.
Wow.
It's pretty. Yeah, that's identical numbers. I think it was 147 off 79.
I reckon it was, very close.
Have district clubs looked at him, or?
I'm not sure. I think he plays around Davern Park in South Australia. So I think he likes just playing with his mates. One of those blokes. He just likes playing with his mates.
Hopkins into the attack.
Can certainly play.
Yeah, he's certainly the key wicket. If they can get him out early, that'll make a big difference here.
Surveys the field now. Hopkins with his medium pace. From the northern end. He's a left armour. This is a full toss, and McQueen plays it down. The big Gav, who comes in off the boundary. Right in front of our commentary position. Decent arm. Yeah, he's got everything. He's a very good player. There's no doubt about that. If he gets going, he'll clear the fence regularly. Mind you, so will McQueen, who's ready for Hopkins now. And he gets beaten outside the off stump. Appeal for a catch behind. In fact, this is Forsyth. And the umpire says not out. A swing and a miss.
How's Hicks' form been this week?
He probably hasn't been as successful as previous years, but he's a quality player, so it just takes one innings, doesn't it?
Well, they've done well to get in the final if he hasn't had to dominate, which is good. Good to have everyone perform well as a wide is conceded by Hopkins here down the leg side.
Yeah, he usually makes 200 or 300s every year, Gav, but I don't think he's made one this year, so good even contribution from the whole team.
Cutaway, bowling to his field at the moment, Hopkins.
A very tidy start. 4 singles, only scoring shots, one of them a leg by.
Appeal for LBW. He gets back on his crease, and the umpire does a Rudy Kurtzen, boys. He takes a long time to put the finger up, but does put it up in a very theatrical manner. That was certainly out. I reckon Forsyth, he's looked around, he's not happy, but he was back. The ball kept low, and it hit him pretty close, unless he thinks he might have got a bit of a nick on it. But we're not sure from here. We'll see if we can see on the replay.
He turned around and wasn't interested at all.
No, he was not. Oh, I don't think he hit that.
No, and it's the only issue is whether it was missing leg, but it probably was a reasonable distance, I think, back in the crease. But leg stump would be the worry.
It's the way to go for players nowadays, isn't it? You turn your back on the umpire and just say, well, that's not out. But a great start by Hopkins. Forsyth departs for a duck. It's 1 for 4 in the second over.
Yeah, that would be the only query I'd say on that, mate, would be the leg stump.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 for 4 in the second over.
So getting an early wicket. Got the left-hander in now, South Australia. And this is Josh Waldhooter, who's ready for Hopkins. And it's outside the off stump. Now, as we know, Aaron, it's all about, in regard to the intellectual disability classification, you've got to be 75 or under with your IQ level. That's the main one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're tested before you're 18, is that right?
Yep, you can be tested at any time. You can go and get it tested at any time, but you have to have proof of the intellectual disability prior to the age of 18, that's right, yeah. So all of these guys would have gone through that testing at international level. It's it's probably a bit more stringent as well. So there's a fair bit of testing they have to get through to get to this level, and then even more and to get through to international level.
There's a few other issues too. Many of them probably not used to a lot of the things that we're used to and we take for granted in normal life. I mean, being involved in a competition like this would no doubt be great for them individually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's so good for them, because a lot of the time, you know, they get bullied at school and things like that, and they're known for their disability.
Yeah.
But when you come out here, you know, they're getting their Victorian shirts or their South Australian shirts. They're getting celebrated by Cricket Victoria and South Australia. And they're known for their cricket ability. All of a sudden, people are making comments on social media about how well they're doing and congratulations and all that sort of stuff. So it does make a big difference to them.
And I guess that belief that maybe they might have thought growing up that they'd never have that opportunity because they felt maybe different or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's right. And we've got, you know, it's really important, this sort of thing, because we pick an Australian squad from here and they get to travel overseas, and it's all fully funded now, which is great.
So Hicks is bowling to his field nicely here. McQueen not able to pierce the field. Gee, there's the commentator's curse in reverse. It's a boundary bouncing before it makes its way to the cone, and then bounces over the cone for 4 near the scoreboard at Cow Corner. So just gave that one a little bit more air, and Chris McQueen able to take full toll, as he so often does. Beautiful shot. 1 for 8 in the 3rd over. Hicks bowls again. McQueen looking to swing that one. Oh, that nearly bowled him. Not quite taken cleanly behind the stumps.
He fell back onto the stumps, which obviously created the...
Yeah.
Bowl ended up being a wide just down the leg side.
That.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Was. Wasn't far away from the stumps, was it?
It's almost gone through his legs, which would make that
can't be
wide call quite... Oh, that's right.
Anyway, he's unlucky. 1 for 9. Gives it air. McQueen driving nicely, carving it through the covers. The outfield's a lot quicker than it was earlier in the day, and it goes to the boundary for 4, right in front of the pavilion. So 2 boundaries for Chris McQueen.
He started well, hasn't he?
Oh, he has. Classy player, isn't he? 1 for 13 in the 3rd over. Well, I like the way Hicks is bowling, Aaron, in that he's inviting him to drive. He's tossing it up. This is a flatter one, making McQueen play from the crease and not score. So 3 overs gone. South Australia losing the early. We get a Forsyth set into bat by Victoria. 1 for 13 in the ID final. New South Wales having a great day. They've won both the deaf final and also the blind final earlier today, beating South Australia on both occasions. Good to see many of the other teams here. Tassie here, WA here. I believe you have your presentation straight after this match tonight.
Yeah, all the teams are here tonight. We've got the presentation out at Cardinia Park, so that should be a great experience for the guys to see that stadium as well and be part of that.
A lot of people inside enjoying the club rooms and the bars at present.
Hopkins starts a new over. Defender from the crease by Waldhooter.
So McQueen is on 9. Waldhooter yet to score. Forsyth dismissed for 1 of 4 deliveries. LBW to Hopkins in the previous over.
He drives down the ground, Waldhooter. Generally, do you find that their social skills become better by being involved in a sporting team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only their social skills, their confidence especially grows generally.
Here's Hopkins again, swinging a miss, looking to cut. But missing. Bowling well here, Hopkins. Got that early wicket.
We were speaking to Ray earlier in regards to that, and the fully funded, you mentioned that about the overseas trips. Keen to... How long has that been sort of in vogue? And that would have made a huge difference to players that might have been really good at this level, but for whatever reason weren't able to join touring parties due to the inhibitor of cost.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 3 years now, and it's thanks to the Commonwealth Bank who's provided the funding for that. And there's certainly been players like Gavin Hicks would have paid about, he would have paid a lot of money over the years to go on these trips, and thankfully it's not a barrier anymore, which is good. I think we're the only sport in Australia who fully fund their national blind, deaf and intellectual disability teams.
How proud are you of that?
Yeah, very proud, very proud. Yeah.
Look at the big smile on your face.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, we forget what an inclusive sport cricket can be.
Yeah.
It's one of the great sports in a lot of ways that anyone can sort of have a game because you've got so many different levels in your sporting club, in your grassroots club. As the fourth over comes to an end here, it's 1 for 13, and you just come down and have a go, don't you?
Yeah,
Aaron?
that's right. And it's so important when clubs do get players with disabilities that they do welcome them and make them feel part of the club. And there's so many clubs that are doing that, a good job of doing that at the moment.
That was a rare maiden over.
Was. He's going well, Hopkins.
Yeah.
Nagging away. Well, Aaron's got plenty on his plate in his role as Disability and Inclusion Specialist for Cricket Australia. Really appreciate you coming in. You're doing a wonderful job. Thanks for having us down here today, and enjoy the rest of the day, and I hope you get a great final.
Thanks a lot, Dan. I just want to say thank you to you guys for doing
Pleasure.
what you do, because it raises
Absolutely.
awareness around Australia about this, and all of a sudden we get new players popping up everywhere. So thank you very much for your help.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming.
Overwhelmed by the social media response just on the live
it's
stream.
been unbelievable.
I think
They'll tell us when we're wrong, which is fine, but they also praise us too when we're right.
But just even from players, there are players that are here at the venue that are sort of saying, I'm proud to be representing New South Wales today, commenting on the thread, saying great to be here. And at last time I checked, I think there was about 950 comments on the Facebook stream over the course of a few hours. It's been extraordinary.
Yeah, it's great. It's working beautifully, and Rick Lyon and the team do a great job. The crew behind the scenes, we thank them as well. And again, we thank Cricket Australia for the opportunity to be part of it, Aaron, and you do a great job. Good on you, mate. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Aaron Dradridge joining us, Disability and Inclusion Specialist from Cricket Australia. One of the men running this program today. Good he could pop up for a few minutes. I know how busy he is. With so much to do, and it's a big night tonight, big awards night dash that they have, and it's an opportunity for all the players to get together and have a good time.
And there are so many here from all the competing sides. I noticed walking down there all the WA shirts and the Tassie shirts and everything like that, and Queensland, it was fantastic. So, I assume there must have been a function to have them all sort of along it, but it's great that they're all in their colours as well. So everyone represented across this carnival.
I think you'd just be proud, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
A South Australian shirt or a Queensland shirt. Hicks looks like he's bowled himself through. He's in his third over, and he almost was able to York Wald Hooter on that occasion. Playing underneath it, 1 for 14 in the fifth over.
Curtis doing the fielding in there. Wind still blowing pretty strongly.
Floater ball. Wald Hooter just can't get off strike at the moment.
He's faced 9 dots in a row. In fact, I think it's about 10 or 11 dots in a row now for him. Blocked out that maiden in the previous over and just one off this, so 1 run off 2 overs.
So needs McQueen on strike, South Australia, which he will be now for the fifth over.
But it puts pressure on your premier batsman, I guess, in the case of McQueen on this occasion, that you end up needing to go even harder because you're just not getting that support at the other end. We saw that with Smith in the previous game.
If he gets 147 like Stoinis did the other day, and he did the other day, it'd be great to watch, won't it? It'd be too many, you would have thought, for Victoria if number 10 doesn't get going. Mind you, they've got a pretty good team. I mean, as Aaron said, he hasn't really fired yet.
No.
And yet they're into the final again, so...
Good time to do it.
Oh, no doubt.
Over number 6, I think this is.
It is. Yeah, Hopkins continuing.
Bowling the third over of his spell into McQueen's a full toss, and it's hoiked around the corner. You don't get away with them too often. Didn't hit it particularly sweetly, but it goes away for 4 in any case. And those ranked full tossers are going to get punished by quality batsmen, and McQueen is that. So he's doing it all at the moment. He's up to 14.
Yeah, it was
just needs a bit of support.
I reckon that, and I often give them the benefit of the doubt, fell out of the hand a bit. It was a high full toss.
Yeah, it was just below the waist.
Yeah.
Most quality batsmen are going to put that away. And this time it's cut very well square of the wicket on the offside, down to deep backward points, but comfortably fielded down there in the deep by Ben Smith. Just the 1 run. So now pressure back on Waldhooter. There's been a boundary at the start of the over, so that should release the shackles on him a bit, but hasn't been able to score from his last 10 deliveries. Can't chew up that many balls in a T20 match. So continuing in here is Hopkins. And he's hooked that in the air straight to the fielder, so he's felt the pinch of that pressure that we spoke about. Hopkins has got his second wicket, and Waldhooter just going for one when he didn't have room. As we said, feeling the pinch of eating up a lot of dot balls, and he falls.
Yes, at short straight mid-wicket. Bowling well up, didn't give himself enough room, and he clipped it away.
Catch taken by Alford at mid-on. Hopkins gets his second wicket, and the ball was sort of angling down leg side. He probably just needed to... He stepped inside the line of the ball. He should have probably stepped outside the line of the ball and just worked it through the onside. If you haven't scored for a while, your next scoring shot can be a 1. It doesn't have to be a 6.
No, that's true. Look at McQueen. He's a jovial-looking fellow, isn't he?
He is.
Seems quite confident in his own ability. Why wouldn't you? And you've made the runs he's made in this carnival over the years for his beloved South Australia. Another left-hander coming in now.
So unfortunately for Waldhooter, an 11-ball duck. Scott May coming to the crease.
What's worse? We've spoken about
the diamond duck, golden duck, or an 11-ball duck. Probably, I'd say the 11-ball duck's the worst.
Yeah.
Golden duck, you've just copped a cracker like, say, Joe Burns did at the MCG.
Unless you're a tail ender and you've done your job.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a night watchman or something. You faced 8 one night and you're out the next day. That's a big shout
close.
For LBW.
LBW, that is very, very close.
What might have saved him is he took a long stride down, so he was a fair way from the stumps when he was hit, but it's a pretty good delivery. May have struck him just outside the line, possibly.
Not sure he took the stride down as much as he would have liked, but anyway, he survives.
It's popped up on the leg side. That was aerial for quite some time, just trying to turn that around the corner. It fell short of the fieldsman, but he does survive. 6th over, 2 for 19.
Scott May's been in the team the last couple of years. He's an experienced campaigner.
So 2 bowlers operating through the first 6 overs. So they're going to bowl potentially both of them out. That's driven hard straight down the ground. Copped a deflection on the way through as it goes to mid-on for no run. Fielding done there by Lawrence.
I think Hicks
will bowl
himself out,
so
but I think he might need to save Hopkins for a bit later. He's bowling so well, isn't he?
Do they keep one more up his sleeve or not? 7 overs gone. That's another maiden. 2 maidens. Both Hopkins. 1 for 19. 2 for 19. So here is Hicks to bowl his 4th and final over. So he will be at the end of his spell. He's yet to take a wicket thus far, but has bowled nicely into McQueen, who would be continuing to... He seems a free enough spirit, but he'd have to be feeling the pinch a little bit, where he's responsible for pretty much all the runs at the moment.
He's hit a couple of boundaries off Hicks, but I don't think Hicks will be too worried about it.
He's gone long down the ground. That's nicely placed straight. And the fielder comes around and can't stop that. That's 4. Diving over the top of the ball in the deep there was Ben Smith, but it's a reasonably valiant effort. But another boundary, the 4th of the innings to McQueen.
Got to stop putting the moz on people.
The reverse moz.
Yeah, exactly.
That clean as a whistle.
He did.
And McQueen played and missed outside off stump. Good response from Hicks there. Follow-up delivery was very nice.
Mackie took it beautifully, didn't he?
Might be sitting there thinking, you don't need to take the gloves off me. Hicks in, and McQueen goes over the onside, turning that one around the corner. Shouldn't go for 4. They'll come around and cut that off. They should probably get 3. They'll run on the throw. It was a long way down to that sort of deep backward square boundary. And McQueen picks up 3 and moves to 17.
Here's the danger man. Someone obviously needs to stay with him, but he's the sort of player, having seen him the last 2 years, where he can just take an attack apart.
But they need
someone
runs.
may not need to score a lot. He could score more than half of them, and 150, 160 is more than achievable.
21 rather the score from McQueen, but they need runs at the other end. And May drives,
Yeah, it's good bowling.
straight back to the bowler.
Flight and then dip.
So Hicks just about to finish his spell. Plenty of other roles for him though today. That one was a fuller ball. It's driven. They run on the shot and it gets May off the mark to mid-on for a single. So if you're McQueen, knowing that this is the end of Hicks's spell, do you take him on or do you just see him off?
It's a good question. I suppose you see what sort of ball he's got in mind, or do you premeditate it?
That's almost got stuck in the pads.
Yes.
Almost bounced off one sort of into the other, and that completes Hicks's spell. 4 overs done for him, 7 overs done for South Australia's innings. They're 2 for 27.
Is he going to keep the gloves? He's going to keep the gloves for the time being, Mackie. And Gavin Hicks will go out in the deep. Maybe he wants to have a look at the situation of the game today from a different position.
So much experience. And it is going to be both bowlers bowling out at their respective ends. Hopkins will get his 4th over.
Just would have hung on to Hopkins for one more. He's bowled beautifully, though.
So it'll be a double change at the end of this. Hopkins bowls, it's hit in the air, but placed well enough. It was aerial for a fairway. Hicks threw his arms up there down here on the sweeper boundary, thinking that perhaps more could have been done to prevent that in the field. Lachlan McRae was one who was moving away to his right, and it went for 4.
He didn't have complete control then, mate. It was a spoon shot, wasn't it? And the thing was, if long on McRae was a bit straighter, he might have nearly taken that catch. He was a bit square, wasn't he, Dash?
That's right, and I think that was the frustration from Hicks down in the deep. So Hopkins continuing to May, who had his first boundary, turned that around the corner very nicely. That'll race away over the outfield, back-to-back 4s, and that eases a bit of the pressure on McQueen with 2 boundaries at the other end.
Yeah, it's just he's not happy about it, the big fellow. Gavin Hicks, he's right in front of us here. It was a full toss on leg stump. Money for jam every day of the week, as an old Latin teacher of mine used to say. And Gavin Hicks.
Not sure that's a name common in Latin literature, expression common in Latin literature.
Well, it was by our Latin teacher Jimmy Burns in year 8.
And just a little feather on that one, sort of digging that around the corner from May, down for another run. So 9 off 3 deliveries, 2 for 32, 2 for 36 rather.
So May's getting into his work, which is good. Quite a destructive player as well when he gets going. Queen with the rat's tail and the bushy beard. Very much an individual.
He's batting nicely, got himself into the 20s. Facing up late in Hopkins' spell, leans forward and drives to mid-on, no run.
It's all about bowling in the block hole. And Holland generally has bowled really well, stopping the batsmen from swinging their arms. 1 or 2 full tosses, but you'd have to say it's been a pretty good spell from.
He's been punished for both of those full tosses, and now he's drawn the false shot from McQueen, who played and missed outside off stump. So Hicks, 4 overs, cost 19. Hopkins has 2 for 16 in his 4th over.
As an off-spinner opening the bowling, you'd take that every day of the week, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And McQueen drives, runs on the shot towards mid-off. Throw goes to the keeper's end. They get back comfortably. And that concludes Hopkins' spell. 4 overs, 2 maidens. And he has picked 4 overs, 1 maiden rather, and 2 for 17. His figures, 8 overs gone, 2 for 37.
Yes, it's a good spell. So they've now got 2 brand new bowlers into the attack, Victoria. They took a punt to bowl 2 of their better bowlers out straight away. We knew Gavin Hicks would from last year. Just thought Hopkins might have been safe for one more after his first 3 overs. Produced 2 wickets. Now brings Steve Tolianidis into the attack. Bowl some spin.
So
Leggies.
Sticking with the relatively slower bowling options. So the run rate pushing up to, in that last over, about 4.6.
Still a long way from where they want to be, but they've got plenty of wickets in the shed.
18 off the last 2 overs, though, so just starting to pick up the pace a bit.
The Goodman brothers, they're twins, very talented cricketers.
Identical.
They are identical. Saw them down there. They both had their hair cut short, dark hair.
Swept around the corner. Nicely played. That goes too quickly for the fielders in the deep, coming around from deep backwards square. And that's another boundary. And with that, McQueen moves to 27 off 23 deliveries. 5 boundaries. Swept in front of square. Perfectly placed. As Aaron said earlier, 147 off 79 balls earlier in the week. That's another rank full toss. It's curled around the corner. He didn't take full toll of that. He'd be pretty frustrated. He bounced it to short fine leg and they get a single. Brings May on strike again, who's starting to look pretty solid. 2 boundaries in the previous over. A loose start from Tolianidis.
Yeah, it has been. Just starting to get going here, South Australia.
So May pulls that around the corner, pulls it hard towards Hicks, who tracks around to his left, picks it up inside the boundary and keeps it to 1. So it's starting to score off most deliveries now.
Bowling a bit short, Tolianidis at the moment. A shout out to our mate, the governor, wanting to know when we're next in Geelong. I said, well, we're here.
That's right. How about right now, Gov?
Yeah.
It's a dot from Tolianidis. McQueen goes for a little bit of a walk just to gather himself. Has a bit of a chat to McKay.
Curtis warming up near us in the covers.
McQueen turns and pulls that nicely around the corner, coming around to field that one at fine leg for Victoria as they get through for 2. It's been another solid over.
As he just hasn't quite got his length right yet, Tolianidis. McQueen's into his groove. May is as well now. Curtis is either bowling next or he's practicing near Gavin Hicks wanting to bowl next. That's good bowling. It beats him all ends up.
And that concludes the 9th over of the innings. 8 from it, 2 for 45, but 26 from the last 3. Just to up the ante a little bit.
Looking at Chris McQueen's bat on screen. It's been through the ringer a bit. Mind you, he's probably hit the middle of it a lot throughout his cricket career.
Looks like the lucky bat. Looks like it's almost been taped up a little bit, but 30 not out he is today off 27 balls and 5 boundaries. May is 11 off 9. His partnership worth 26.
Another spinner.
Only a couple of the black armbands, the South Australians. Small spin into the attack, and as forecast by Dan, it is Curtis that comes in and starts off with a real loosener, a wide that's got through everyone. It's gone through the keeper, and unfortunately McQueen has slipped over at the non-striker's end, which has prevented them from getting back from another. So that'll be 2 wides when it would have been 3 otherwise. In fact, it was May that slipped over. There's clearly another run in that.
He's always patting opponents on the back and on the shoulder. Chris McQueen, he's having a bit of a sweat here. He's a ripper. Great character for the game.
Very enthusiastic player.
And obviously the key to this South Australian team and their quest to right the wrongs of last year. What was a thrilling match.
Curtis into McQueen again. It just defends. Good delivery. Curtis, it's a tidy response from the two wides outside or down the leg side previously.
Another experienced player, Richard Curtis.
And spewing that he missed out on that one, McQueen. It will be a wide. He tried to turn that around the corner into the leg side. So Curtis has unfortunately bowled 2 down the leg side, which has cost him 3 runs and obviously a couple of extra deliveries. So only 1 legitimate ball of the over for the 3 runs thus far. McQueen this time backs away and pulls it really well to the left of Hicks. They should get at least 2. Hicks has got a good arm though, so they won't take that one on. Throwing that one low into the deck, but they'll
never
get a couple.
seems to fumble either. Took it in one hand. I think he can do everything pretty well on the cricket field, Dash.
So it's 2 for 50 in this, the 10th over. 32 not out, McQueen. And this was another full toss, and he doesn't miss out on that. That's 6, just down in front of our broadcast position. I reckon that's gone for 6. It's been signalled 4.
It has. No, it's
been
6.
signalled 4. That definitely cleared the boundary from our vantage point. And it's just been corrected by Hicks, actually. So the umpire signalled 4. They actually just yelled out to Gavin Hicks on the boundary. Gavin Hicks put the 2 fingers in the air, indicating that it was 6. There was no doubt in front of our broadcast position that cleared the cones.
Waist high, full toss on leg stump.
And
Chris McQueen won't miss those.
Good sportsmanship, obviously,
to
acknowledge that. And McQueen tries to sweep again and mistimes the swing of the bat, misjudges the pace, and it just cannons into the pad, drops into the offside, no run.
He's been courageous here, Curtis, Dash, and he's tossing it up. I know there are times he's not quite getting his range right, but he's hoping that he might play a false shot.
That's another one.
Provided he
down the leg
on the
side. That's right, too. It's been a bit of a licorice all short. 3 down the leg side, a full toss. But as you say, tossing a couple up, trying to draw the shot. He's just got to get the radar working. That's the next part of the equation. He has beaten the bat a couple of times. So it's a long over with 3 extras. And this one is pounded down towards the left of Hicks, who slides in and can't stop it as it goes for 4. So a 6 and a 4 in the over, and a pretty expensive start here from Curtis, and it's not yet finished. Queen moves into the 40s.
You've got to get rid of him soon, Victoria, because it could get out of hand.
As we saw the other day with that massive Stoinis like 100.
He's a fidgeter. He's always touching his gloves. And
bit of a Rafael Nadal type operator.
Yeah, there is something about him which makes him an interesting character on the cricket field to watch. Entertaining too, as they're going to have a drinks break, and he'll want that.
It concludes the over, so it's 42 runs off 4 overs now, so shows you the value of this partnership. It's 2 for 61 off 10, so for the first time in the innings they've been able to get the run rate up above a run a ball, so puts them right back in a good position here, South Australia, when the things were looking a little shaky at 2 for 19. McQueen is 42 not out off 33 deliveries. May is 11 not out off 9 deliveries. 16 runs off Curtis's first over. It looks like another bowling change. And coming into the attack will be Ben Smith, number 11, to bowl over number 11.
A lot of these players were part of the Victorian team last year, along with the South Australian team. So plenty of experience out there. Yeah, I think a bit of pace will help. Leonardis didn't work in his first over, and Curtis neither, allowing South Australia to get themselves back in the game.
It'll help, but not a bad time, particularly if you're someone like McQueen, maybe to have a bit of speed coming onto the bat either.
Gee, first slip was there.
Now, has he touched that? Has he got a... Yeah, certainly got some bat on that.
He did,
yeah.
yes. First slip was there. I think that might have been out.
It's another one similar to what we saw with that catch from in the previous game. Yeah, it's a big edge, yeah.
Miles away from the wicket keeper. West side on here. It looked like it was a bit closer than it was. It was miles away between first and second
So close
slip.
that I didn't notice the enormous deflection off the outside edge.
Not a bad full toss because it didn't allow the batsman May to swing his arms. Ben Smith.
So we're getting boundaries quite frequently now, so the run rate significantly picked up. It's nearly 11 from the last 4.5 overs.
One of the young guys in the team. Yeah. 20-year-old. Nice shot by Smith. Off his toes. By May, I should say. His partnership's getting dangerous now as
48.
May and McQueen egging each other on, clapping their bats when they complete a couple of runs, which could have just been one.
May's on 17 now, so he's building nicely.
McQueen doing the same.
Two for 68, so one run away from a 50-run partnership. I guess Hicks and Hopkins, two of their more economical bowlers, are bowled out completely.
Yeah, just not sure, as I keep saying, it's the right decision. Certainly to bowl Hopkins out. I thought Hicks would take the gloves, but he hasn't. Yet.
Shot.
Beautiful shot. Couldn't get anywhere near that, Hicks. It was a lovely late cut. As good a shot as you're likely to see. He's got all the shots, Chris McQueen. He can show great touch. He's got soft hands when he has to, and plays with brutal strength as well when required. At this level, an excellent player, class above really, putting his team in a good position now. 2 for 72 in the 11th. Just getting away from the Vicks a bit. Dash.
It certainly has been that. It's another 11 runs off this over, which has still got some to come. 8, 10, 8 and 16 in the previous 4.
It's good running. Oh!
Direct hit would have been very tight. Straight away, McQueen applauding May for his desperation at the other end. It's a 13 run over, so 8, 10, 8, 16 and 13 from the last 5. So some quick math says that's 55 runs in 5 overs. So
you're a beauty with your arithmetic, aren't you? Was that a strength of yours at school?
It was. Not maths in general, but arithmetic, yes.
Yeah, I was okay at that too. What I like about it is that as soon as they hit it and they think there's a chance for 2 going towards 2 fielders with a straight hit, long on and long off, they're off.
Yeah.
It's in their mind. They might just say to each other, 2, away we go.
So 48 McQueen, 18 May.
Leonardis swapping ends. Dash.
So run rate up to 7.4. Projected score pushing up now towards 150, you'd think. Or 140-ish.
They're in a very good position now. Lovely cameo by Scott, mate. And the fielding's become a bit sloppy. They're diving over balls at the moment, the Victorians. Could have been stopped, I would have thought, by Lockie McRae at mid-off.
So obviously with fielding restrictions no longer in place, you've got the sweeper, long off, fine leg and deep mid-wicket and long on.
Switching Gavin Hicks. His body language is not great at the moment. Put the hands out and thought, what's going on here? Just seems to be a bit confused. Is the game slipping away a bit at the moment? Certainly not lost, but they've just got to get a wicket.
Nathan Samuel, a busy boy in the field then, shaped to throw. Neither batsman had moved. It's a very good shot for one run.
Excellent shot. Lovely on drive. It's a beautiful cricket shot to watch. I think particularly by left-handers. I've always loved it.
Yeah.
Kumar Sangakkara, David Gower. I know he was described as being a bit flippant, but gee, when he was going, he was beautiful.
Beautiful batsman to watch.
Yeah. I've always said it. I saw the best 40 ever at the MCG by Kumar Sangakkara in a one-day match. Those off drives, cover drives, on drives were just exquisite.
It's like the only time we've watched Brian Lara bat live was in a one-day at the MCG. He went out for 59. I was spewing because he looked really good. He wanted him to cash in.
He's another one that's beautiful to watch, wasn't he?
Oh, stunning. Another lefty too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Clive Lloyd was a different left-hander.
Yeah.
He was a brute.
Yeah, that's right. Normally left-handers or left-footers, even in footy, for whatever reason, are the better players to watch.
He'd club the ball.
Yeah.
Still beautiful to watch, but in a different way.
Whereas Brian Lara could be belligerent, but there was still an artistry to it. There's still
He had Alan Turner, Alan Border, I should say, was very pugnacious. The way he batted as a left-hander.
So many times having to bat with his team under all sorts of pressure.
Yeah. Especially early in the career.
Yeah. I think it's amazing at the end of that over, but some of the West Indian players, I think it was guys like Joel Garner and Viv Richards, actually said one of the greatest regrets of their career was actually when Alan Border played that test. I think it was in Antigua in '84, and he made 98 not out and 100 not out. Apparently they asked him what the biggest shame in their career was, and he said that Border didn't score 200s in that match.
Yes,
he should have, because he batted so well.
Very good player.
Arguably Australia's probably heaviest test series defeat. The West Indies won 4-0 and did not lose a second innings wicket in the series. Won 2 test matches by an innings and 2 by 10 wickets.
It was the beginning of the end for Kim Hughes, I think.
You know, you've had a good series if you don't lose a wicket in your second innings at any stage.
He hardly made a run and he just lost his way badly.
And then we had to play the Windies again at home.
It's a nice shot by May. Come back for 2. Hicks is aiming for McQueen's end. Doesn't miss by too much, but he's home. It's good running.
Almost landed on top of the stumps. It was sort of a lobbed in throw. So that was a better over, at least that last one. Victoria only conceding 5, stemming the bleeding somewhat, but the partnership worth 62.
Other batsmen have obviously got to step up with Hicks. Hicks needs a big score too. The way things are looking for Victoria. Because McQueen always seems to contribute, especially in finals. It's on the way to another 50.
Yeah, he's 49 not out at the moment off 36 deliveries. May's on 25. He's putting together a good little contribution as well, is May.
That 84 series too, there's also a lack of discipline. I mean, Greg Ritchie and Wayne Phillips, who are good players, but Bob Simpson didn't want them part of his regime when he became coach. They slipped in. They missed the start of the match.
Yeah. This is extraordinary.
Yeah. Wayne Phillips is always pretty flippant about things. Didn't take it too seriously. That was probably half the problem. Good play. Another left-hander.
Made 150 odd on debut against Pakistan.
Again, a different sort of left-hander. Very aggressive.
That's interesting replay of that one as it was turned around the corner by McQueen on the bounce as he brings up a half century, but the fieldsman could have come in off the rope a little bit.
50 runs to McQueen. Been in good form in this competition. Made it look pretty easy out there.
37 deliveries.
Patrick Wheeler on the boundary there.
Just wonder whether, looking at the way that bounced, whether that was diveable or not.
Pill for catch behind, out.
First impression, I'm not so sure about that.
Well, he had a swing and he got an edge, mate. He didn't quite have his foot to the pitch. Certainly, McKay was very, very confident. He actually thought it was a fake complete, to be honest, and just wanted the umpire to put the finger up. When the umpire wasn't putting the finger up, he started to think, oh dear. But then, yeah, it's out. I think the umpire also thought it was a fake complete. There's a bit of deviation you can see in the replay there.
May certainly didn't look too interested in it, but
another example of a player having his back to the situation. Yeah, he's a bit stunned, you're right.
Yeah.
3 for 83, they needed the wicket. And a nice innings by May. Certainly helping McQueen take some pressure off the South Australians and put them, I think, probably marginally in front in this game at the moment.
25 off 21 for May. McQueen is 50 not out. Joined at the crease by Luke Goodman.
Born on the same day as my mother, many, many years apart, obviously.
And on the same
April
day, of
25th.
course, as Jesse Goodman.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And Anzac Day. So,
Who do you share a birthday with, famous-wise?
Elvis Presley, January 8th.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Adam Goods, Shirley Bassey, David Bowie.
Doesn't get much better than any of that. That's a good date, the 8th of January.
Very good date. He's away, Luke Goodman, driving into the offside, Betty Curtis.
Share a birthday with Danny DeVito and Britney Spears.
What's your date?
2nd of December.
Is that right?
Correct.
A couple of good ones too.
Not quite Elvis and David Bowie territory.
Danny DeVito, good actor. Very good actor.
Very good.
Britney Spears has had her moments as well.
Yeah, Danny DeVito, the Penguin in Batman.
Yeah, he was wonderful. Ben Smith in. Over pitching, but actually it wasn't a bad ball because McQueen played underneath it a bit and couldn't get any timing on the shot. So that was a better over too. They got a wicket, 3 for 84. 8 overs remaining. They're at 7 and over now. Still some batting to come, I can remember from past years. Jesse Goodman's coming in soon.
Got the Pattersons and the other Goodman obviously to come.
Yeah. McQueen's the man, isn't he?
So needing to score probably 9 and over or thereabouts from here to be a reasonable target. That would get them up closer to 150. So we're about to...
Italianardis to bowl to Luke Goodman.
This will be his 3rd over.
Both Goodman boys, I remember, bowled pretty well at the death last year. Gavin Hicks went out. Victoria had the game in the bag. Gavin Hicks went out and they got pretty close. And they even thought they might have won the game, thinking, well, actually, they thought they'd tied it and they'd finished ahead of Victoria. But because the scoreboard was out by 1, but the Vicks had already won, they thought they had to run another run and they'd stopped mid-pitch to celebrate. It's chaotic.
Not quite the... South Africa miscalculated the Duckworth-Lewis in that World Cup. 2003, I think it was.
Yeah, they just played out the over, didn't they?
Yeah, they've had so many of those moments.
And in 92, where they had to face
they needed 22
19
off 19.
runs, they had to make 19 runs.
They did 22 off 19, there was a rain delay, and then out of the rain delay they needed 19 off 1. So I don't know how the Duckworth-Lewis took 3 runs off in 18 balls. In fact, I think it was pre-Duckworth-Lewis. Whatever the system was before Duckworth-Lewis.
Well, Luke Goodman let that first ball go, a dot ball. Maybe he thought that was going to be called a wide. It wasn't. From Italianardis, bowling his 3rd over. His leg spin from the northern or city end. Tosses it up. Hits it in the air. Curtis fields nicely on the bounce. Not a great throw because he seemed to lose his footing, but it didn't cost the team another run.
Would have been better off hanging on to the ball there rather than trying to throw off balance, but terrific work initially.
Because that was travelling awkwardly for him. 3 for 85. This is the 13th over. Queen still the man. As he surveys the field in his inimitable style. He's chatting to the wicketkeeper, Naki.
14th over the scoreboard is a bit of sleep at the wheel.
It's the 14th, you're right.
Not our scoreboard, of course, the scoreboard.
That's right, they started bowling from the Gavin Hicks end. Talianardis was about to bowl and then stopped. Don't think McQueen is one of the great fidgeters. Was ready, takes forever. A bit like Rafa Nadal when he's getting ready to play tennis or Maria Sharapova. This is short, pulled away by McQueen.
Good fight back from Victoria. They've taken a wicket
score.
and they've slowed the scoring. They conceded 55 runs in 5 overs. It's been 1 for 11 in about 3 overs since.
He tightened up a bit there, McQueen. He got himself a bit tangled up, didn't he? Almost stumbled in playing the shot.
Covering off most of his areas too.
Yep. Now he pulls the next one. There might be enough for a boundary. There's not. Hopkins comes across to cover it. Then Hicks misses it. Bit of a mistake in the field by the Victorians. A comedy of errors. They probably shouldn't have got a couple.
Yeah, that should have been 1. They were able to double up on that.
They were. Well, Hicks and Hopkins, I thought maybe it almost got away from Hopkins, but he came across it deep backward square, and then Hicks was there to pick it up after Hopkins couldn't take it cleanly, and he ran over it. Looking at the replay, 3 for 87. In the 14th. Talianardis has tightened up after an expensive opening over. Gives it air. McQueen hits it high, long and handsome. Hicks thought about trying to catch it. Forget about a big fellow. It sails over his head at cow corner for 6.
It would have needed to be standing on top of that shed.
I think so, to get anywhere near that. That was a monster by Chris McQueen. Have a look at that.
Frustrated too there, Hicks. He socketed it away when it bounced back to him. That nearly landed on the oval that is behind our broadcast position.
He started to think, could I catch this? And he gave up 10 metres away. Goes again. This is even bigger. Massive. Out of the ground.
Might have hit someone's car.
Yeah, it has. And that's gone whitish cow corner. Between cow corner and long on. 2 sixes in a row. I was saying Talianardis had tightened it up. And I've absolutely burnt him.
This has been the biggest case in point of commentators' curse of all time today.
No doubt about that.
Both good ways and bad ways. But remember that piece of commentary where Ian Smith's commentating in New Zealand? He's in a hire car, which is parked outside the ground. Jesse Ryder hits a 6 that went through the front windscreen of his hire car whilst he was commentating. Yeah.
Well, he was commentating.
Whilst he was commentating, you actually hear it on the radio. He goes, I think that's hit my car. And then they zoom in, and sure enough, it had.
Well, that was a huge hit by McQueen. So they're a couple of overs behind the scoreboard.
So that's 14 done, scoring at about 7, just over 7. So he's pushed himself up into the 60s here, McQueen. I wonder if he's a chance to turn this into a ton. 64 off 42 balls. There's 36 balls left.
3 for 99.
So assuming he faces half of them, can he score 36 runs in 18 odd balls?
So this is the 15th over.
Yep.
Smith to start it. Bowls to Goodman, who's doing the right thing, just rotating the strike, playing nice, clean cricket shots along the ground, a long off.
3 off 4 for him.
And the century's up, 100 in the 15th over.
Should be looking at 150 plus. .64 off 42 from McQueen. 3 6s, 6 4s.
He's in again. And McQueen, has he been caught behind, looking to drive? Certainly Mackie behind the stumps. He took it well, was pretty keen. Smith not so keen. None of the other players keen at all. And the person who needs to be the keenest is the umpire. Not interested.
He hurt himself getting down to play that shot too, McQueen. He got up and went for a walk, as he always does, but certainly had a hobble up this time.
Reminds me a bit of the Derek Randalls.
Yeah.
The way he goes about
big,
things.
tall
Bit
Derek
quirky.
Randall. 174 in the centenary test.
Yes. He smashes this, but he might be caught. He is caught just inside the boundary. I thought it had enough on it, but in the end, not enough elevation. Caught right on the edge of the boundary in front of the scoreboard at Whitish long on, and McQueen holds out. That is a big wicket for Victoria. And they're now 5 for 100, but what a great innings again by the entertainer in the ID match for South Australia, Chris McQueen, his third consecutive half-century in finals.
Nathan Samuel came over and shook his hand too after that innings. Good sportsmanship, as we've seen a little bit throughout the course of the day by the Victorians in the field. Nicely struck from McQueen, just picked out the fielder in the deep, giving himself a little hit on the helmet there.
Yes.
In frustration. He certainly set his team up, but the wicket does fall at a pretty bad stage for them in the 15th over. We're talking about sort of 150 plus. Victoria will be hoping to restrict it to 140 or lower.
Certainly play, can't he?
Oh, yeah,
fourth wicket.
for sure.
4 for 100. I'm sure that district clubs have looked at him. I've been told they have, but I think he's just happy playing with his friends, which is great.
Yeah, and there are plenty of people like that in local sport. Enjoy playing with their mates. Second wicket for Smith, 2 wickets to Hopkins as well.
It's an excellent 100, couple of big sixes in that.
2 in a
So
row
it's
in
4
the
for
previous
100.
over.
The scoreboard ticked over to the 4th wicket very quickly. It is a Victorian home game, of course.
Just got to get the overs right.
Reserve. Yes, they're a long way from that. Well, they're almost there now.
Yeah, I think they fixed it now. Yep.
So, in the 14th, in the 15th over, 4 for 100. Jesse Goodman on strike. It's a chance for a catch behind it. Swing and a miss. Taken cleanly by Mackie. He's been pretty solid there. He replays the shot.
Field's come in a bit too for a couple of new batsmen at the crease.
It wasn't far away. That nipped away at the last minute too by Smith, who's fought back well, I reckon, after his first over. He's quite expensive. He's done a good job from this southern end.
Went for 13 off his first over.
Distant memory now for Ben Smith. He's in again, and Goodwin swinging a miss, looking to cut, maybe uppercut it. Taken cleanly again behind the stumps and no run. More dot balls. 4 for 100. In the 15th. And that had a bit more bounce. He played over the top of it. Still get 150 from here. It requires some fireworks, some pyrotechnics from the South Australian batsman. Smith in again. That's a well-up ball. Doesn't know where it is, Goodman. His teammate was going for a run because he knew where it was. That's Adam Patterson.
Just 1 run off that over.
Yeah. Plus a wicket. McQueen out for 62. And it's 4 for 100 after 15. 5 overs to go. Victoria winning the toss, sending South Australia into bat. Forsyth made a duck. Waldhooter a duck. May 25, involved with a good partnership with McQueen, who's just been dismissed for 62. Involved in that with 2 magnificent sixes on the onside in the previous over, bowled by this man, Talianidis.
So Hopkins 4 overs, 2 for 17, and has a catch. He's been the pick of the Victorians. 2 for 19 from 3 overs to Smith. Talianidis about to be bowled out. It'll be interesting to see how they utilise these last few overs. So Smith's only got 1 left. This is the last for Talianidis. Hopkins and Hicks have bowled out as well. Curtis has only bowled the 1 thus far. Patterson gets to the pitch of that and chips it on the bounce to deep mid-wicket to Hicks, who fields rolls it in through some of those soft areas on the other wickets.
Any chance the big fella could have lunged forward then? We would have heard the thud and taken the catch. It would have been a ripper.
It would have been.
Looking forward to seeing him bat. Dash.
See how many his side will be chasing. That's pulled hard between the fielders. Hicks just turns to his left and says that'll go for 4, and it does. Too short is absolutely correct. And that goes into the boundary. Mostly the short stuff that's been getting hit for 4. In fact, there haven't really been any effective short pitch bowling all day. In the previous game or this one, they've been the deliveries that have been most punished.
How do you think the wickets played?
Got better as the day's gone on, I'd say. A lot of grass on the wicket. Heck of a lot of grass on the wicket. And the sun hasn't really come out, so hasn't been able to dry any of that.
The South Australian deaf batsmen got the worst of it, didn't they?
They did. That was curled around the corner. Back-to-back boundaries. Is it no? Just fielded inside the rope. A little bit of a bobble down here in front of us by Dave Alford. And they get back for a couple of runs. Nicely played, though. 7 off the over, 6 off the last couple of deliveries. So we need a boundary and over from here. Them chipping away around it can get them up close to 150. Should be a competitive final. Of course, if Victoria were to take a couple of wickets, they might be able to restrict them even around 130. Turned around the corner, pulled down. This deep mid-wicket, deep square boundary getting peppered a little bit in this over in particular. So 4 pull shots, 8 runs off the over.
He's got to get them up a bit more, just landing a bit short. Allowing the batsman to swivel comfortably and play through the onside. 8 runs from the over so far.
Just a standard delivery. He was almost in the pulling position before the ball arrived was Patterson, and he played and missed outside off stump. He's been very active in practicing his shots between deliveries. Final ball of the 16th. Into Patterson again. It was a Yorker length delivery, which he's dug out well into the onside. It's a misfield, but they've run well past the stumps, and fortunately for Patterson, he was just a little bit of asleep at the wheel. He ran a long way past the stumps, content with 1. There was a misfield, which meant they would have easily got 2. And just having a word to him now, I think, is Goodman saying he's got to be watching the field, making sure that we're awake to those opportunities. So just a single. 9 off the over, 4 for 109.
So 4 overs remaining. Luke Goodman doing a good job too, along with May, to support McQueen, who was brilliant in his 62. Second over coming up for Curtis. He struggled a bit at the opposing end, the northern end, so we'll have another crack at the southern end.
Of course, Australia and India today in the second of those one-day internationals. And around the grounds also, England 4 for 224 at stumps on day 1 of a pretty interesting series against South Africa.
Great series, loving every minute of it. They might have found some young batsman actually born in England. Not sure about Denley. He's been the almost man. A lot of 20s and 30s. Hasn't quite made it yet.
25 over 90. He makes a lot of 38s and 32s.
Not sure he's going to make it.
Although he's starting to take a couple of wickets, that might keep him in the side for a bit. He's bowling, but
well, he'll play the rest of the series, and Burns, I think, might come back in and replace him, and Crawley could go down to 3. Although still very young, Crawley. He's 22.
And Shipley looks all right.
Yeah, he does look good. Burns is certainly good enough, even though he plays and misses a lot. He's got a
Burns is a bit of a Dean Elgar
technique.
type, just a sort of solid citizen. And South Africa probably needs some runs. Their bowling's been all right, but whether with an inexperienced batting lineup post the Amlar, De Villiers, Smith era, with Faf du Plessis struggling a little bit.
Well, they need Elgar to put more runs together. He gets a few, but he also has a lot of failures. He's all duck or no dinner, Dean Elgar. When he gets in, he's hard to shift.
South Africa have had probably the Australian spate of retirement from 2006-07, playing and missing outside off stump.
They have nowhere near the depth or the population.
McRae, that's right, McRae to the attack, plus obviously the frustrating quota system, which has impacted their selection over the journey.
Didn't Mark Boucher and Graham Smith say, still in place, but you picked on merit.
And it's good to have those guys back, at least from their point of view. McRae in again, and that's driven down the ground hard. It's a risky single. If that hits the stumps, they would have been out by a long, long way. And he had a long time to have a look at him, and he had a real good look at him, did Hopkins, who's been terrific today. And that would have really topped things off had he hit the stumps there. Not much interest in the run from Patterson at first.
Well, he was out by half the field, almost.
Yeah, barely in the camera shot when that had to hit the stumps. Just going through his extravagant practice swings, Patterson. So in again, McRae. Goodman tucked up. Just jams that out from under his ribs for no run. So good over this, the 17th thus far. They need to find the boundary a couple of times.
See, they've still got plenty of wickets in the shed, so they can afford to take a risk or two. Patterson and Goodman. And Jesse Goodman's quite confident with the bat as well. He's in next for South Australia.
And that one's a wide, so
too much swing.
Blotting the copy book a little bit from McRae. As we say, the last few overs will be an interesting play. So Tolianadas has bowled out his 4. Smith has got 1 to go from his allotment. 2 for 19 are his figures.
Curtis has only bowled the 1.
Which went for 16. Yeah. So depends how much faith they have in that. And that's worked off the hip into the offside. Again, a rather hot single, but Hicks just misfielding slightly. 4 for 112 in the 17th.
It's been a really good standard day's cricket, hasn't it? Some outstanding talent out there, as we thought. Still a bit more to go yet.
That's driven again down the ground. Just doing it in ones that won't trouble the Victorians too much. Although they'll get back. No, they won't for a second. It would have been a very risky attempt at a run on a misfield.
But he's done it again, Patterson. He overran at the non-striker's end, and Goodman was awake to the fact there was a misfield, although you should never run on a misfield.
Just over-committing.
Yeah.
Singles. It's like, I guess he's content that it is just one when he takes off. There's always a chance of an overthrow or a misfield or some strike of fortune. And played and missed outside off stump. So just 3 runs from that over. A pretty tidy one. 17 gone, 4 for 112. So 8 and over gets them 136. 10 and over gets them 142. They'd probably want a bit more than that.
Not sure they'll get either 8 or 10 and over, because neither player, to me, look like big hitters.
No. You're going to have to find
Slight
gaps.
Stature, aren't they?
Patterson certainly swings hard. Just whether he can get enough on it. It's more about maybe placement and hitting some 4s into gaps. Coming up for over number 18. Whelan into the attack, the youngster from the under-19s. Passionate support crew from both sides in attendance. So Whelan continuing, and that has hit the stumps. He's tried to hoik that over the leg side again, and it's hit the top of off stump. And that is the end of Patterson, who's been swinging hard.
Wrapped too. Have a look at him.
Hasn't been able to get the results, and the youngster from the under-19s picks up a valuable pole in the latter stages of the innings.
Patterson practices the shot. He can practice as much as he likes now. I tell you what, I reckon he doesn't bowl quickly anyway. I reckon he's taken the pace off his slow medium paces, if that makes any sense.
It does. And that is one of the best celebrations. Patterson, unfortunately, no movement of the feet. Just literally a big hoik. And unfortunately, the top of off stump. And that's the end of him. And it is 5 for 113. A couple of dot balls, one of them a wicket. Oh, so valuable for Victoria.
So the Goodman brothers are in. They know each other well. No, they're not. This is not the other Goodman brother. They've decided to change the batting order, which is fair enough. They might need a little bit more hitting.
Bo Chisholm.
Bo Chisholm comes in. Solidly built individual.
Hopefully can get a bit of power behind.
Jesse Goodman was meant to come in.
So Patterson out for 3 off 7. And that's another looped up, fuller delivery. It's effective from Whelan. Giving him a good look at it, but they can't get underneath.
Taking half an hour to get to the other end, but they're doing the job. I mean, that's very clever, this inclusion.
So no runs from the over. And another swing and a miss. So valuable dot balls at this stage of the innings. South Australia can give away the 150.
Chisholm's just throwing the kitchen sink at it.
And the big fella.
He's through his shot even before the ball has been released.
It's because it's taking its time to get down there. This is a full toss. He's made reasonable contact of that. Good catch overhead taken there. Going backwards there, Alford. It looked like he might have been out about to step underneath it, but almost like an overhead mark in footy. He's plucked it from the sky. It's 6 down, 2 wickets in the over for Whelan. And what a terrific inclusion this has been to the attack.
Let's turn the game again. The idea was right to bring Big Chisholm in because obviously he can hit, but he's just been completely bamboozled by the off pace.
A duck off 3, took one hand off the bat as he swung.
That was a dreadful shot. Because again, the pace beat him.
Almost like a squash.
Or the lack of pace.
A squash shot that time.
Yeah.
Alford with his second catch in the deep. Can Whelan finish this off? The maiden over. Getting plenty of support from Mitchell Lawrence.
He's not happy about it either, Chisholm.
So now into the attack. This time it's Jesse Goodman.
Yes.
So could we get a maiden in the 18th over?
They cross, so Luke's facing.
Rare. So Goodman on strike, plays it off the back foot, will run on the shot, and that just blots the copybook. But 2 wickets for 1 in the over from Whelan. He'll probably earn himself the final over of the innings as a result of that. 18 overs gone, 6 for 114.
Certainly don't think they've got enough yet.
No.
Unless they get early wickets. All they're getting early wickets. Cricket's an easy game, a simple game. If you get early wickets, put a team under the pump, as we saw with South Australia in the Deaf game earlier today. They were 3 for 3. Lost a wicket off the first ball. They lost their best player, Trudgett. Magnificent catch. New South Wales' bowling was of a very high standard. And they were never really under pressure and chasing 65 to win.
So Goodman and Goodman at the crease. Sounds like a law firm.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
That's a wide.
Or an accountancy firm,
right.
Anything like that.
So it's a wide from the bowling here of Lachlan McRae.
Goodman and Goodman, good afternoon.
Need to get some runs from them here with 12 deliveries left in the innings, 6 for 115. Runner ball gets him 127. Would that be competitive? Back-to-back wides.
Yes, well taken. I reckon he's done a good job, the wicketkeeper, Mac. He's been very, very good. He hasn't missed too many.
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't taken a catch because there hasn't been an edge, but he's looked pretty safe behind the sticks, and that was well taken. That was travelling. Too much swing. That's been a bit of an issue.
So continuing again. And this one has just ballooned off the outside edge of the bat over the vacant slips cordon down towards short third man. Nathan Samuel trying to track it through the air. And it just sailed just out of his reach. It's a hard one to pick up on. Big, thick edge for that short third man. Pick up 1 from it, so 3 runs off 1 legitimate delivery, so a couple of those wides just helps the cause a little bit. Looks like McRae and Whelan will be the two to bowl this out. Goodman just pushes this one down the ground. That was Jesse, and scampers through for his first run. Gets off the mark with a single. 6 for 117, 618 in actual fact. And swing and a miss outside off stump.
That's good bowling, isn't it, from the left armour?
It's a good comeback.
Right across the right-hander. It's clever bowling.
So McRae continuing to Luke Goodman. And another.
He's just too good for them, isn't he?
Yeah.
Slanting it across. And see, that again was leg stump line, and eventually it swung enough to go over the top of off stump. Got enough height as well. Beautiful bowling.
Effectively cut him in half. So Luke Goodman just needing to get bat on ball. Find a way to rotate the strike. He's come down the track this time. It's another wide. So that's been the only blot on the over is 3 wides. Other than that, he's had Luke Goodman at 6s and 7s.
I know it's late in the innings, but I don't think the umpire's allowing enough for the swing.
Well, that was a bit of a fuller delivery, but wasn't a huge, sort of over the tram lines a little bit.
I suppose it's like in tennis, you've just missed it. It was pretty close, though. He was still swinging, Goodman.
Luke Goodman, another wide, this one down the leg side. So 4 of those. Just as you look over under the old scoreboard, lovely New South Wales boys from the previous game, just enjoying taking this one in. Maybe a refreshment or two. So not long left in the over. 6 for 120. 4 wides has just changed the complexion a little bit. This penultimate over, they've gone for the reverse sweep this time, getting a little bit inventive. Was Luke Goodman on that occasion. Still a delivery to come after all of the wides that have been bowled.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing, isn't it? He's just blown all his good work. He's bowled pretty well. He just hasn't been able to get bat on ball. He's improvised, he's tried, and in Test cricket, he wouldn't have been penalised for all these wides, but these are runs that could be a bit of a difference.
Goodman this time comes down the track, hits that in the air. Fielder coming around, difficult one to catch, coming back with the fly, but they've done it nicely. Good, solid catch in the crowds. And it's Whelan who's on fire with a couple of wickets, and he hangs on to a catch as well in the deep.
He has a good catch too.
Yeah, absolutely. That was tricky. They're doing everything right in the field, the Victorians.
Because originally I was unsure whether he was going to go for it. He thought maybe his teammate would go for it. And then I think he said, no, I'll go for it. And I still thought, oh, I'm not sure here. He let it sort of drop a bit more than he should have. It was an eventful over, wasn't it?
Certainly was. So that takes us now to...
Good catch in the end. Actually, he took it comfortably.
7 for 120 with 1 to come. And Goodman playing that shot too close to his body, not getting a clean swing at the ball, just jamming it off sort of the upper part of the bat, high in the air, and Whelan gets around to take a nice catch, and surely he gets the final over, you would think.
Turned this game, the youngster, hasn't he?
Certainly has. So McRae will complete 2 overs, 1 for 10. Or will Smith get the final over? That would be the only other possibility. Looks like it's going to be Whelan, because Smith had 1 to come.
Yeah, he deserves it. So there's an Adam Patterson and a Ben Patterson. There's 2 sets of brothers in the South Australian team. This is Ben.
So we've lost the Goodman.
Going to Patterson.
Yeah, so we lost one of the Patterson brothers, then one of the Goodman brothers, and we've got the other 2 together at the crease. Luke fell for 14 off 21 deliveries. As it's brought in now, and we get a couple of runs to start the final over of the innings. 7 for 122. So Ben Patterson at the crease.
Come on, buddy.
So wheeling in towards Patterson, and he's hit the stumps again. He's bowled him for the... That's his second time he's got through the defences of the batsman in this innings, and 3 wickets in 8 balls for Patrick Whelan.
It's just been the change of pace. The loopy bowling.
Yeah, or the lack of pace.
Yeah, that's what it is. And like his brother, Ben Patterson practices the shot.
No good practicing it now.
No.
And it's been, at one stage, they were 3 for 99 off 14 overs, South Australia, looking at 150, 160. They've lost 5 for 23 in 5.2 overs. Shades of the Renegades a couple of times this season.
My memory serves me right, Victoria's target was around this last year, and it took until the last ball to get it. So,
still runs on the board.
Oh, that's exactly right.
So it is 10 deliveries to go. It's James Eustace Smith that comes to the crease, and he will have to face up. 8 for 122, 4 left in the over. Whelan with figures of 3 for 3.
Gee, and a great
catch. Yeah. What an impact he's had on the game.
Good thing for Victoria is they didn't drop their heads when McQueen threatened to take the game apart, and there was some poor bowling by Talianatis and Curtis.
And they've kept
bowled a bit too full.
They've kept fielding well.
Yes.
So just got to score off every delivery here. South Australia, they can't work miracles. That's pushed in the air to mid-wicket. Good quick running from Jesse Goodman to get down the striker's end. 8 for 123 with 3 to come. It's somewhat competitive, though it'd certainly be behind the 8 ball, but not the easiest of conditions to bat in. Although McQueen made it look so.
His jockey size, his pint size, his baby face. Patrick Whelan.
But he's effective, and that's got through the field. That's a good shot. That'll race away. That'll just about go for 4. It does. So that's valuable in the last over from Jesse Goodman. Played it off the back foot. Cut shot through cover.
You wonder how vital that last over. I know he got a wicket. McRae's wide. He bowled so many wides in the last over, whether that could be the difference.
So with 2
valuable runs, of course, for South Australia.
So with 2 to come, 8 for 127.
Come on, buddy.
So Whelan in again, and this time swing and a miss. So they've wasted 1 of the last 2. 1 delivery left. 8 for 127. Can they get themselves beyond 130 by finding the boundary?
Again, the lack of pace. Beat Goodman.
Can they finish this off, the Victorians? Whelan in again, and Goodman has missed it outside off stump. Did he lift the foot? He didn't. It's not out, but it's back-to-back dot balls to finish. And Victoria should be pretty well pleased with their fight back. South Australia at the end of 20 overs, 8 for 127. Is it a score that will see them competitive in this final? The ID final on this National Cricket Inclusion Championships Day. New South Wales winning the vision impaired match to start the day, and then the hearing impaired match in the middle of the day. South Australia could potentially be staring at 3 grand final defeats on the same day.
Good effort by Victoria. Great fight back after they started well. They got Forsyth out early and Waldhooter out early to have South Australia 2 for 19. And then May and McQueen got their team going. McQueen some big sixes, threatened to blow the game apart, and then it turned. after May was out for 25. He was out for 62. And young Whelan came on. I thought it was probably maybe a gamble just to see whether his interesting bowling style, where he bowls quite slowly, and there was even some deliveries which were slower than others, and completely bamboozled the opposition. And
he bowled
did
slow
a great
and
job.
He had a slower ball.
He did. It was fantastic bowling, and the South Australians just couldn't handle him. And in the end, they managed to rein it in. And 8 for 127. I'm not sure they've got enough, but as I said last year, it was around about this total that Victoria had to chase down, and it took until the last ball for them to chase down, and it was mainly the effort of Gavin Hicks. So he'll probably need to perform well. Aaron Dreadwich said a little bit earlier that he has struggled a bit in this tournament so far, so he needs a big score, but he needs other players to support him, like the bowlers did today, as we have a look at some of the wickets falling. Forsyth being the first one out. He didn't think he was out. He had his back turned to the umpire. He couldn't believe it. It looked pretty plumb to me, unless he hit it, but didn't look like he hit it from here. But he wasn't happy about it. And then there was the flick and a comfortable catch taken in the onside with Woolhooter out, getting all tied up.
Yeah.
Some excellent batting by McQueen, but he then held out in the deep, and that was the wicket that Victoria needed. And he was disappointed, very disappointed with himself after he'd banged 2 massive sixes in the previous over. And then come to the party, Patrick Whelan bowling those little slow dibbly dobblers.
That's a celebration.
And he couldn't believe it that he picked up a wicket, and he was pretty excited. He also took an outstanding catch in the deep as well.
From the under-19s player.
Yes. And that was a terrible shot by Chisholm. Getting caught in the deep, took a hand off the bat, completely out of control. Good catch in the end, had to backtrack a bit, but Hopkins was pretty happy about that. And I think Chisholm would love to have that back, that particular shot. He was very angry with himself. So they've got 128 to make, Victoria. And then he got that last wicket.
Identical celebration from Whelan as well.
Yes.
Then 2 dot balls to finish. So there were 2 bursts in the innings. So one where South Australia took 55 off 5 overs. Then the last 6 overs of the innings, Victoria took 5 for 28. So will we look back at it and say South Australia getting that 55-run burst in there was enough to give them a competitive score, or Victoria pulling them back 5 for 28 off the last 6 overs?
Or McRae conceding 5 wides in that second last over, because they've played a lot of tight matches, these two, over the years, especially in the last couple of finals. We'll see if they've got enough. It's going to be an outstanding run chase, we hope, and Victoria an opportunity here to make it 2 in a row in the ID final, needing 128 to win. South Australia 8 for 127 off their 20 overs. Back with the run chase very shortly on the Cricket Australia stream of the National Inclusion Cricket Championships from Geelong. Well, 128 required by the Victorians to win the ID title. And South Australia made 8 for 127. They fell away a bit towards the end of their innings. And it was a good fight back by Victoria, helped by the teenager, Patrick Whelan, who claimed 3 for 8. Excellent performance, following his off-pace, slow, right arm, medium pace dash is how we're describing it, aren't we?
Yeah, loopy. When we say loopy, good dip on it. He was actually changing the pace a little bit, throwing it up in front of the eyes and just wrong-footing the batsman and got a couple of wickets, hit the stumps twice and drew a complete miss-hit from Chisholm. So now, as we say, it's whether the South Australian momentum in the middle of the innings will be the key factor or whether it was the Victorians' ability to wrap them up at the end with 5 for 28 and restrict them to 8 for 127 when they looked on track for mid-140s, maybe 150, that might ultimately be the key.
And we've got cricket royalty joining us, Dash, in the box. We had Nathan Lyon a bit earlier. We've got one of the all-time greats of Australian women's cricket in Belinda Clark about to join us as well, with the Women's T20 World Cup just around the corner.
Cricket royalty is correct, as we said, nearly 6,000 international runs in 7 centuries, averaged 47 at Australian level.
Now leading administrator in Australian cricket.
First player to score a double century in a women's one-day international, 229 not outs.
Look at this. This is a history lesson.
Hello, Belinda. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's great to be here.
Good timing too, obviously, with the announcement of Australia's Women's World Cup squad yesterday. A couple of new faces in there, Annabelle Sutherland most notable as well.
Yeah, great opportunity for Annabelle and great reward for someone who's, you know, just taken every opportunity in front of her, particularly the last 12 months, but very talented player. We always knew she'd probably get there, but nice surprise that she's there for such a big tournament.
So this is one of the Goodman brothers, one of the twins.
Luke.
Is Luke. Can't really tell them apart. I saw them down there earlier. They are identical twins. Do you look back in your career, Belinda, 6,000 runs as you being a trailblazer in women's cricket in this country? Most people would think that, I would have thought.
Yeah, I probably, the era that played before me and the one before that I would consider to be the trailblazers.
Still no run.
But I suppose if you're just casting your eye over the women's game now, then it's probably fair to say that era that I played in is probably the first time where we started to get a bit of traction. We're playing a lot more cricket, so that allowed the Australian public to at least know who the names were. But the people I looked up to when I was playing were the people in the generation beforehand.
Goodwin getting plenty of pace. That swung away nicely by Mackie through the onside.
When we talk about trailblazing, not so much it seems that the game in Australia and England has been popular on the women's circuit for a long time, but almost globally now we're seeing the West Indies get better. India, who beat Australia in one of the matches in the last World Cup, Australia's only defeat. Sri Lanka, teams like that are touring here, that it seems to be now clearly in its healthiest position outside of the big two.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've done a lot of work at our International Cricket Council level to make that the case. And the key change was the start of the International Women's Championship, which ensured that every country was playing each other on a regular basis. That allowed countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh to get into the international schedule.
Well, there's so many Australians that are dominating. I mean, you only have to look at the T20 and the one-day teams, and that's not surprising now, Belinda, with the way they're dominating all those particular competitions, and the depth is just incredible now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's outstanding, and I think, you know, credit where it's due, the WBBL teams have done an amazing job of not only nurturing young talent in this country, but also cherry-picking the best talent from around the world, and so our young players have received that benefit of playing with, you know, Cap and the like. So they're picking up experiences that are now global, as you know, as Annabelle Sutherland is probably a great example of someone who's probably had her learning accelerated.
Well, they all want to come, don't they? This is the thing, they all want to come and play, these international players. We've seen a lot of the South Africans come, as you mentioned, the English girls want to come, the Indians, just indicating that they've probably seen Australia as the yardstick.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're getting, you know, they're getting paid for their trouble as well, which is which is also a nice carrot. But they love coming. They love being treated well by our crowds and our clubs, and they love the cricket.
Looking at...
Nice shot down towards Cow Corner by Mackie. He's got 2. Hicks has got 1, none for 3, chasing 128. Victoria against South Australia.
It's one thing that they talk about, the balance between short and long form cricket. I imagine a lot of the women would prefer to play more test matches if they had the chance. I think you played 15 and 118 one day, as Elise Perry, for example, has played just the 8 test matches and 111 one days. Is there that real demand amongst players that we want to play some test matches?
It pops up every now and again, generally around an Ashes series.
Yeah.
But I think if you think about what has created the growth in the game and that equality across the playing standards, it really has been the shorter formats. That's really where the television coverage has got interest. That's where we've been able to globalise the game. So I think we just need to be aware of where we're putting effort, what outcomes we're getting from that, and I think we've seen the benefit of focusing our attention on the T20 game in particular, but short form in more generally.
What's your role specifically at Cricket Australia? So what's the biggest challenge facing you?
Yeah, so I look after the community cricket area, which is why I'm here today, you know, marvelling at the talent on display, and just, you know, really great to be here and to see this in action. So essentially the remit is all the cricket that sits below Premier Cricket, and that's juniors and seniors, with a real focus on making sure our game is accessible to everyone.
So how important is a day like today? We've spoken to a few people about it, Aaron, earlier, in regards to, it's a big appeal for LBW, by the way, but in regards to creating opportunities for people that may have felt growing up that was never possible.
Yeah, very important. And if you think about role modelling, these people are now role modelling for the next generation, and what's critical is that cricket clubs around the country and associations look at what's happening here and see what role they can play to be inclusive and make sure that everyone in the country has an opportunity to play, regardless of gender, regardless of any issues they may have, and these guys and girls are just setting the standard there, and it's really important that the community picks it up and runs with it.
You're starting to set up the Women's National Inclusion Championships, aren't you? It's taken a little time. It's starting to sort of reap rewards, isn't it? Yeah,
so we've started with the deaf, you know, the deaf exhibition sort of series this year. It's probably a little bit more challenging than setting up the men's system, just in terms of, if you think about the number of girls that play cricket, it's a proportion of the boys of everyone that plays. It's a smaller pool at the moment. It is growing, and we're hoping to make it bigger. And so this is just a subset of that, so it's even smaller again. And we've got to do some good work in schools and with local clubs and make sure, you know, kids get into the game at a young age.
Do you think they are?
Oh, absolutely. There's clubs around the country running programs that are really aiming to do that. And a lot of the players won't end up here. They won't have you know, the skill or necessarily the desire to do this, but they should have the opportunity just to simply play the game on a regular basis, and that's critical.
Because we've got a lot of clubs, haven't we? And they've got a lot of teams, but there's also a lot of clubs that only have a couple of teams in a very small geographical area. I cover a lot of sort of club cricket throughout the southern part of Melbourne, and you think to yourself, gee, there's 15 clubs in an area of Bentley, 15 clubs in an area of Hampton, and you wonder whether they're all going to survive. But they all seem to find a way to survive, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's over 4,000 cricket clubs in the country, which is a big number. Not all of them provide opportunities for both males and females. Not all of them provide opportunities for those with a disability, and I think that's really the next step. How do we make sure that we find the ones that have got an interest and an ability to do that, and broaden their service offering to the community, and make sure that they are supported to do that?
In a way, is it almost a combined effort, whereas a lot of people think it's competition where there's other sports, thinking, well, are they going to go and play football or soccer or whatever it may be, tennis, rather than seeing that as a bad thing? As long as they're doing something and they're out there in the community, cricket plays a part as one of many, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and look, my personal view is that that's the case for all of sport, all of cricket, all of ages. We don't take the view that you need to, you know, go take specifics and go specialised at an early age, and we're not competing with football and soccer. We're competing with societal trends, and the more we bind together to solve that, the better off we'll all be.
Good shot, starting the third over after Gavin Hicks has just hoiked the end of the second over. Great hands by Mackie, the wicketkeeper. First ball of the third over. It's none for 12. Victoria chasing 128 for victory.
Steady start, not taking too many risks thus far, keeping wickets obviously intact, going about 4.5 and over. It's
becoming a big tournament, this, Belinda, isn't it? And Geelong do a great job every year.
They do a wonderful job. We've got great support from the local member for this area. We also get support from other departments in Victoria, but Geelong cricket are amazing, and the support we've got from local clubs has been awesome, and that really what makes this work.
Gee, look at the hands of Mackie again. He virtually hit that out of the wicket-keeper's gloves for 4. It was a beautiful shot to make it none for 12. Do you expect it to stay here? I know South Australia got close, holding it last year. The Victorian government were able to step up to the plate, and obviously the financial inducement was there. But do you expect it to remain in Geelong, or would you like it to go elsewhere?
Look, we've got an opportunity to assess where we're at, but I think what stacks in the favour of Geelong is just the support we get from the local community and that support from government. So there'll be opportunity for people to talk further about that at the end of this championship. But there's no doubt that Geelong have done everything they possibly could in order to put on a great event, and that'll hold them in good stead.
And I spoke before about the word trailblazer, which you, knowing you very well, Belinda, you deflected very quickly. Elise Perry, how proud are you of her?
Yeah, she's a super athlete, a super person, and she's done a lot for the game. She'll continue to do a lot for the game, but her skill and her dedication to what she does, her discipline, is like nothing I've seen, and I'd stack her up against any athlete in this country, regardless of what sport they play, to the way she goes about preparing herself and getting better. She's an amazing player.
The Australian women's cricket team would be our best national team, surely, at the moment, wouldn't they? In terms of, if you look at the balance of their success in the tournament and the star power across the board, surely there's not a national team better than that. Well, the men's team are going okay, but the women's team with their World Cup success.
Yeah, they're certainly up there. I mean, we've got some stiff competition. The hockey roos of, you know, if you talk about right here and now, the cricket team's probably at the forefront, but you're about to go into an Olympic year, so they'll be strong. The netballers are always strong.
Yes.
There's a range of female sports. I mean, the basketballers always turn up at Olympics and do an amazing job. Yep. So we are just, I suppose, really proud of our female sporting teams, and they don't always get the media coverage they deserve, but they're certainly getting more of it now than they were in the past.
There's no doubt if Ash Barty wins the Australian Open, it'll be even better for women's sport.
Yeah, she could cricket too.
Well, I heard that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say her playing cricket was the best thing she could have done for a tennis career, and cricket deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, so it was an amazing period of time, and to see someone of that quality of an athlete come in and pay attention. So she'd played a little bit in the backyard, and she knew what she was doing. She wasn't a
batsman or bowler.
She was a batter.
Right.
And her, again, a bit like Elise Perry, her approach to learning the skills of the game were unbelievable. It was morning and nighttime sessions. It was personal coaching. It was exactly what she would have done on a tennis court, transferred into a cricket setting, and she therefore improved really quickly.
It's fantastic, isn't it? Well, Belinda, I know you've got a lot on your plate. I really appreciate you coming in and having a chat. You're doing a great job. This is a fantastic tournament. Third European here. I love every minute of it. And we've got a great finish coming up here. And keep up the good work, and look forward to seeing you at the Women's World Cup next month, which should be great.
Thank you. Make sure everyone buys their tickets and fills the G on the 8th of March. We've got a few seats left, but you better get in because they're going fast.
I don't think there'll be any doubt about that. It'll be full. Belinda Clark, one of the greats of women's cricket in Australia and heavily involved in the community program for Cricket Australia. While that was happening, Mackie was playing these magnificent square drives and late cuts.
Big over that.
Oh, it was a huge over.
15 off
15 of it, and then Gavin Hicks thought, well, I've got to get involved here. So it has been a good start for Victoria now. You said a steady start. I'm going to say a good start.
It was steady. It's become good. Steady off the first couple of overs, but yeah, it appears as if the pace coming onto the bat, it looks the most comfortable any side has looked batting all day. I know it's only early, but just those signs suggest that they're picking up the pace pretty easily.
And I don't think the big fellas like running too much either, Darren.
No, I think they're happy to just hit the odd boundary.
It's a great pleasure to welcome a young man who does a lot for the inclusion and diversity program for South Australian cricket. You only have to look at how well they're going. Yeah, they've made the finals in all 3 competitions. They're yet to win one today. Yeah. And they continue. They've won a few over recent years. And, well, it's a name well known in sport in South Australia. His father, Andrew's been a respected journalist in football for a long time with the Adelaide Advertiser. This is a high ball by Mackie. He hasn't got enough on this. He should be caught, comfortably caught by the wicket keeper. Made a little bit of a meal of it. Maybe he wanted to make it better than it was, but they get a wicket.
I'd say it should have been comfortable. I wonder if it was. It was swirling around a little bit. But always difficult.
May's taking the catch.
Yeah, people always assume, don't they, that those balls that go straight up in the air are easy. But they never are, because obviously the ball's swirling around. We've spoken a bit about that wind being somewhat deceptive. It's gone quite literally straight up in the air, but then sort of drifted, ended up pretty much landing on the stumps. But you could tell quite clearly that it had been sort of slightly misjudged in the air, and in the end was a pretty good catch. But an important wicket. They needed to put the clamps on this Victorian start. They've been able to do that. They get a new batter at the crease in Jamie Phillips.
Well, as you know, I like to give long intros. I was talking about Andrew Capel being one of the best football journalists in South Australia, and his son is a talented cricketer, and his older son, Jordan, was also a talented cricketer, but is doing really well in the diversity and inclusion program in the SAC. You only have to look at how much success they've had in this competition, making all 3 finals this year and winning a couple last year. Jordan Capel, welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Dan. Good to be here, and good time to jump on with a nice wicket to start off. Scott May, or as is known by his teammates, Potsy. Put a bit of mayo on that one, but it was good to hold on.
Should I know why they call him Potsy?
I'm not actually too sure myself, to be honest, so I'll leave that one with the boys, and maybe if you catch up with one of them after the game, they might let you know. What
was the word coming out of the from the camp, even if you had a chance to speak to them, about the way the pitch played in terms of pace or anything like that? Was there any noticeable trends about whether it was slowing down or whether it was sort of too paced or anything like that?
Yeah, I've obviously been here all day with all 3 South Australian teams competing today, which has been a great achievement. Unfortunately, we haven't got the results so far. Hopefully this one can change it around for us. This morning we came out and it was quite wet. Obviously an hour and a half delay for the first game. For the blind cricket, it doesn't impact it as much, but particularly for the deaf game and hard of hearing and the ID guys out there now, one end particularly is a bit of pop off the wicket, and the other end's quite hard, so it's keeping it a little bit lower. So tough conditions for batting, that's for sure. Especially with the new ball. There's that one cut in a little bit for the vision. But yeah.
Good bowling by Luke Goodman.
Yes.
Now, we were out in the middle, Darren and I, and they had Hessian over one of the wickets because it was quite muddy. The impression we got, South Australia had to win the blind final because New South Wales finished on top, that the South Australian boys were less keen to play than the New South Wales boys. Was that right, or...?
So, SA had to win?
At the time, yeah.
So,
they, when the Hessian was on, they didn't want to play. They were going to cover the wicket area where a lot of the blind players are close in anyway. They need to field in that position. They were worried that they could hurt themselves by ripping their sprigs on the Hessian, and they didn't seem keen to play. New South Wales seemed keener to play, even though they didn't have to play because they finished on top.
Yeah, somewhat. The worry for the South Australian point of view was obviously the B1s having very little vision, no vision. That was a real tripping hazard that we thought, and we thought we'd be better off instead of the game getting called off after it started because the Hessian would have to cause an injury. We thought we'd better off giving another half hour just to let it dry out because we didn't want a tripping hazard on the field which would potentially end the final with one incident. So that was the South Australian point of view on that take, and we thought reducing the overs would be a better option than starting with a hazard on the field.
How proud of you of the program overall? As we said, multiple grand final appearances, not just this season but in previous as well. The day hasn't quite gone to script yet, it's still May, but how proud is everyone of being able to be this strong across all the comps?
Yeah, we're extremely proud. We've got a great program in place now, which Amy Wiseman, who's just previously moved on a few months ago, she set this up 3 years back, and since that program, obviously 3 grand final appearances last year and again this year. SACA take great pride in our performances out in the Inclusion Championships, and all the coaching staff that we have amongst all of our teams have doing outstanding work with their players. They have great bonds with all their players, and all the boys out here today, they get along really well, which makes our jobs easy. And this is the rewarding part of our work. A lot goes on behind the scenes to get everyone here, but coming out to these national championships has been a great experience and a lot of fun for all of us.
Chris McQueen to bowl the 5th over, Dan.
The jack in the box. Gee, he's a good player, isn't he? Could have he gone on? Played great cricket somewhere?
Yeah.
I think he could have. He can certainly bat.
Good point to bring up, actually. Macca, as he's known, Chris McQueen. Our coach out in the team today is Jeff Turley, who is obviously got links with Woodville Cricket Club.
He's just pulled the first one away for 4, Gavin Hicks. This will be a great battle, by the way.
Yes, and Jeff actually approached Woodville a few years ago, trying to get him to get Chris and a couple of the Goodman boys across as well.
They can play too.
Plenty of talent out there. Unfortunately, they didn't quite want to take that next step up, but as long as they're comfortable in the environments they play club cricket in, that's all that matters. And Macca captains his team, and he's now based on the York Peninsula where he lives. I think he drives about an hour and a half to play every week, so it's a great commitment. Yeah.
He loves it. He's obviously had some issues in his life, like a lot of these guys have. I mean, how tough has it been for some of them, Jordan?
Some of the stories you hear are just mind-boggling, really. It's great to see them out here on a cricket field together, but yeah, this is an escape for a lot of these players, and there's been some incidents that have happened throughout the week and throughout their lives as well. But the way, when they're out in the cricket field, you wouldn't notice that they face these troubles at home. So it's a great opportunity for them all, and it's great that we can give them this opportunity.
And how good is it for their confidence too? Just that, as you say, to be able to be in an environment now where, yes, everybody might be facing similar challenges to them. There'd certainly be less judgment and probably no judgment in a lot of respects. That just allows them to, I guess, get into that team environment. Yeah, exactly. They feel comfortable out there playing. They're as passionate as anyone about their cricket, which is on display today. And it's a great opportunity. It helps them socially, being able to socialise with like-minded people, which is a great opportunity. And we, as I said earlier, our coaches are really understanding of that as well, which makes the players enjoy their cricket.
Am I allowed to ask why they're wearing double black armbands?
It's been a tough week for one of our players particularly.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
He did lose a couple of family relatives that were really close to him, so that's the reason for the double armband this week. It's just a way to sort of show their appreciation for what they did for their lives. Yeah.
Well, let's hope that he's getting through the game okay, and the players are okay through that. And this is, as you say, a diversion for them, an opportunity for them to do what they love doing. And McQueen playing well at the moment. He got 62. There's a appeal for a catch behind here against Hicks, who just cut him through backward point with a late cut. That had a bit more bounce, which beat the big fellow, and he almost got an edge through to May, but he didn't. So it's 1 for 35 after 5 overs. South Australia made 8 for 127. Were you here, Jordan, earlier in the week when Chris did what Marcus Stoinis did? Made a big 100.
Yeah, that was my first game of the championships, which was
You're the good luck charm.
Yeah, well, I walked in and I'm like, wow, who's this guy? He should be playing A-Go cricket for West Torrens. So it's from my club back in Adelaide. But no, outstanding performance. I think it was two balls faster than Stoinis's.
Is that right?
Yeah. That was against Queensland on the morning in day one, and yeah, he was hitting them to all parts of the park. I got stuck underneath one which bounced into a tree, which all the boys had a little laugh at because as I ducked my head away to try and take cover. But no, outstanding innings, and as you saw again today, if he hits the ball, it stays hit. He almost hit a couple of cars, so I kept my car well away today.
Yeah, we had ours well away too.
Jesse Goodman into the attack, and boundaries unfortunately flowing a bit too frequently for
behind
South
square
Australia
too,
just at the moment.
Yeah, both sides of the wicket.
That's what I mean. They seem to be adjusting to the pace pretty well, so we had a feeling the pitch might get better as the day goes on, but nice batting display early. What's the plan from like immediately after this? What happens tonight with the team, and when do they make their way back home?
Yep, so all the teams will attend a presentation dinner tonight at GMHBA Stadium in Geelong, which will be a good night for some of the guys. From here, tomorrow we fly back to Adelaide. A couple of guys are staying on to make a little bit of a trip of it, which is totally fine. They'll then have a bit of time off, work on their club cricket for the rest of the season, as there's another boundary hit.
Yeah, lovely.
Back-to-back boundaries.
Shot by Phillips. It was a bit over pitch there, and that's a beautiful whipping on drive through the onside. Dash.
Yeah, plenty of boundaries being scored. But yeah, so that's I guess that extra bonding post these tournaments as well is an important aspect for them.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot to do as a group, unfortunately. A lot of these players out here in this match actually play indoor cricket together as well, so that will go all through winter, and that's how a lot of them know each other really well. But we'll start probably the process through the off-season, planning for some sessions where they can, not just training sessions, which at SACA are really privileged that they get access to a lot of the high-performance indoor nets at Adelaide Oval and the Part 25 training wickets, which Trent Kelly and the team down at SACA do a great job with. We'll do some training sessions with them to work on their well-being and their media skills and all that sort of stuff, should they need it at these sort of championships. So yeah, it's more than just cricket for the South Australian Cricket Association programs that we run.
In regard to the media skills, they sort of understand that they've got a role to play, haven't they, Jordan, in promoting the team, and how are they going with that?
They're really good. They're always keen to put their hand up for any sort of interview or any sort of promo pieces. South Australia are really lucky. We had Nathan Lyon come down to open training sessions we had with this team and our deaf and hard of hearing team in Adelaide Oval just before the test match at the end of November, which was great. So Gary ended up bowling to quite a few of these players, which they had a lot of fun with that, as you can imagine.
Beautifully played by Hicks again, through mid-wicket for 4, just beating the diving fieldsman coming across there in Waldhuter there.
He's just over pitching Goodman, and he's bowling too much leg side, and Hicks and Phillips are just playing those beautiful shots off their toes through the mid-wicket region. Beautiful to watch.
Smart batting, that's for sure.
It's not over yet, though, Jordan. I mean, we've seen matches turn. I mean, to make 3 finals is a great achievement. The death match was tough, wasn't it? Because you've got some great talent. I mean, Luke Trudgett, I've seen 2 years in a row, just destroyed teams. And when he was out, that great catch just made life pretty tough.
And that's got through. Yeah, that's got through the field
another
again,
boundary again.
Another boundary for Hicks, just peppering, unfortunately, down towards Waldhuter there. But that was decently struck and just dove over the top of the ball. It was travelling at pace, but I'd hazard a guess that Hicks has hit probably 4 or 5 of his last 8 or 9 balls for 4. 6 overs, 1 for 52.
Yeah, just bowling a bit too full, Goodman. And Hicks making him pay, and Phillips to some extent as well. Yeah, it was a full toss. He took a hand off the bat, but he had complete control of it along the ground. But that was pretty tough, wasn't it? The New South Wales team, it was a clinical display earlier today.
It was, and to New South Wales' credit, they played really well. They bowled really well and they fielded really well, as did the Vicks. Their catching was outstanding in the first innings of this match. As we all know, T20 cricket can be a bit hit and miss.
Yeah,
a few early wickets and you sort of put on the back foot really early. Luke Smith put together some runs with John Maggs for a while, but unfortunately not nowhere near enough to sort of make a competitive target for them. But yeah, Luke Trudgett, he's a great story. He's actually travelling away next weekend with me again to the National Indigenous Cricket Championships in Alice Springs. So I might be wrong, but he's definitely the first South Australian to compete in both the National Cricket Inclusion Champs and the National Indigenous Cricket Championships. So great story there, having a player, from the deaf and hard of hearing team, competing in our Indigenous team.
There's obviously some challenges for all those deaf players and even the blind players, but they all seem to adjust pretty well, don't they?
Yeah, they know each other's games really well, and the fact that they have so much in common, they all have, it's great team chemistry. And our deaf team struggled a little bit. We've only got 4 players playing club cricket this year, I think. A lot of them are, I think, we had another really good story actually with that team is we had a 14-year-old in that squad who took a nice little catch and ended up taking 4 or 5 wickets across the three or four games that he played. So
I saw his name on the list.
Yeah, young Stray
plays
right. District or Premier Cricket for Teatree Gully.
He's 14. I think he's a bit older than that.
Yeah, I think he might be, looked real good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had him and young Seth in the blind and vision impaired team, who is also 14. So good to have some young kids coming through because obviously you don't want to keep relying on the same players every year. So it's good to have them mixed in with the older guys to help sort of their development and make them feel welcome and fit in with the team.
Almost yorked himself then, Phillips. Good bowling by Waldhuter. Dash just almost got underneath him.
into the 7th over. Run rate's about 8 at the moment. South Australia need wickets probably to slow this down. That's a play and miss outside off stump, pretty close to the off peg. Phillips. So Hicks is 26 not out at the moment. Phillips is on 9. In fact, Phillips is on 11.
Thought Mackie looked good too until he topped one.
Driven firmly down the ground by Phillips. 4-1 to long off. Awkward throw in. Keeper had to get across and back that up to avoid any potential of an extra run. I'm not sure necessarily that Hicks in particular is all that keen to pinch quick singles. Or the stand and deliver approach. It's been a tidy enough over though from Waldhooter, who's been peppered in the field a little bit in the last couple of overs. That one's certainly uppishly played, coming around mid-on to keep that to just 1 run. So 4 off the over thus far.
Now, I believe Waldhooter is on the, is he on the Asperger's or autism spectrum, is that right?
I'm not 100% sure. Josh is part of the Australian squad and the ID sector, so he does really well. He's actually really close with Cricket Australia and Megan Schutt. There was a video released, I think, yesterday, her officially announcing her selection in the T20 World Cup squad, and Josh was the first person she told, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
He also received a signed Cricket Australia top from her, and he's got a young daughter at home that I think he's going to save that one for. So, no, he's a great character, Josh. Loves his cricket. He's probably the biggest cricket nuff you'll ever meet. So, yeah, seeing him out here enjoying himself is always rewarding for us.
Going to field on the boundary at the moment as Chris McQueen comes back in to bowl the 8th over of the innings. It's 1 for 56 from 7, so 72 runs required of just as many balls. In fact, of 78 balls, so the required run rate is a fraction less than a run a ball.
So when you say Chris McQueen travels an hour and a half York Peninsula, we're talking Port Pirie, talking that way, aren't we?
So I think he's in the process of moving to around, I think he's in Maitland at the moment. Yeah, so Pauling's a little bit further around. Yeah, York Peninsula, the first one around. I think he's... I'm not 100% sure, I don't want to quote the wrong club, but he's in the northern suburbs. He's playing cricket at the moment, so captains his local club, and I think he hit 70-odd last weekend to get him over the line in their first win for the season. So coming in with good form, and obviously continuing that on Monday with 147, and then he would have averaged probably close to 100 for the 3 matches.
He just has so much time.
Yeah.
You know when a player is a good player, they've got so much time. Gavin Hicks does too, watching him play.
Clean ball striker.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hicks, he drives to mid-on. Phillips thought about a run, but Hicks said no. A little angry at himself for missing out on that opportunity. 1 for 57.
He's a different player, Hicks. I mean, we saw him last year, guys, just about win it single-handedly for Victoria with some massive sixes, but there's been a bit of good touch as well today.
Yeah, he's missed this one outside off stump. Been a good over from, well, a good little spell from McQueen. Was tidy enough in the last over. A wide to start off with here, but the next couple of deliveries have been solid enough. Queen to Hicks, a couple of the stars of their respective sides. Hicks has gone in the air. It's cleared mid-off. Long off comes around and will keep that to 1 run. It was a slightly risky shot, but ended up landing safely between fielder on the edge of the circle and the fielder in the deep.
I reckon he's hurt his back, Gavin. He's just stretching a bit.
So Phillips on strike. Played missed outside off stump, so McQueen has beaten the bat 3 times in the over. Confidence is up. We've been speaking about him in the last few minutes. 64 off 44 balls today.
Again, moving the ball a little bit outside the off stump. A lot of these players have got the ability to do it. Still, if you look at the wicket, still some tinges of green there, and they're managing to cause the batsmen some issues.
Phillips just defends down the track. No run. Partnership between these two currently worth 24. Phillips just again defends. A good foolish delivery. Not a lot he could do with that. It's a solid over from McQueen. In fact, it cost just the 2 runs. So 8 overs gone, 1 for 58.
What else are you working on, Jordan, other at the SACA in your role, other than, of course, the National Indigenous Champs, which will take up some time next week? And as this comes to a close, I suppose there's no rest for the wicked, is there?
No, certainly not. We've got quite a few little projects on the go. So obviously our SACA Development Academy incorporates our inclusion teams who've been on display this week, and then Indigenous teams who'll be out in Alice Springs at the end of next week. From there, we've got a lot of junior programs, entry-level programs that we're sort of working on. So I also work in the multicultural space. We have some great multicultural stakeholders who do a lot of great work behind the scenes to get some kids involved in cricket, in the Woolworths Cricket Blast program, and also in the Indigenous space where we're hoping, well, we've already had 7 teams confirmed for our Aboriginal Cricket Carnival.
Kill for LBW.
Yeah,
it's out.
Very full. It's a big,
yeah,
big wicket.
It's a great wicket.
Happy.
You'll be happy about that, Jordan. Terrific piece of bowling by Jesse Goodman, and Gavin Hicks playing across the line. Looked pretty adjacent. He's not madly in love with it. That could turn the game a bit because he was starting to look damaging, the big fellow. It's 2 for 58 at the start of the 8th over, and well, we'll get a good look at the replay, but although we're side on here, it's never the easiest spot to call cricket from. It looked pretty plumb, although he's not too happy about
it. 29 off 20 he's made. It was full. We'll have a look at the replay. Leg side would be the issue there. You can see his left leg had moved across outside the line of leg stump. It hit on the front foot. Reasonable distance. That would be the only issue. It'd be from a straight on position, whether that was missing leg stump or not. I think
he's not happy about it.
Gavin Hicks suggesting that might have been the case. So it would either have been clipping leg stump or just missing leg stump. So a tight one. But I can understand the frustration, but at the same time, they'll probably due a bit of fortune there, South Australia. Now Curtis was quite expensive with the ball. His one over cost him 16 runs. So we're looking to at least draw some benefit out of the day. Now, in terms of winter for you guys, do you guys turn your attention to a bit of footy once sort of cricket's done? What's your main focus during the off-season, which is shorter and shorter each year?
Yeah, so off-season's pretty much all planning. A lot of our multicultural cricketers in South Australia love their cricket, so they won't have a weekend off all year round, so they'll still be playing on a hard wicket somewhere when it's not too wet. But yeah, a lot of the off-season is planning for next season. Starting to select coaches and training facilities for these teams, and yeah, planning really.
Never stops, does it?
Nope.
Played missed outside off stump there, Curtis. A couple of runs to get off the mark in the previous delivery. 1 for 60 here in the 8th.
Now your brother, I get a lot of photos on Facebook from your father, Andrew, as I know really well, one of the great footy journalists over in Adelaide. He's an Essendon supporter. I know how he survived being an Essendon supporter in a 2-team town over there, but your brother's a very talented cricketer. How far could he go, Jordan?
Yeah, he's good. I don't want to pump up his tyres too much because he'd probably...
What's his name again?
Bailey.
That's right.
So Bailey plays first-grade cricket, Premier Cricket in Adelaide. He's doing a really good job training with the emerging Redbacks at the moment. So he's hoping for eventually his goal is to play for South Australia, and then from there, who knows? As a batsman, it's always plenty of work to do. It's all about consistency, and putting the runs on the board, doing the hard work, and cricket's such a game of millimetres that one little slip up as a batsman, your 2 weeks could be over. So it's challenging. He puts a lot of time in though, so if he keeps putting his time in and he keeps himself fit off the field as well, who knows? Potentially South Australia.
How many seasons has he played in the ones for West Torrens?
I believe he debuted as a 16-year-old, so this will be his 3rd or 4th year currently, and he's hit 200 or 300 so far this season, so he's doing quite well. Yeah.
So that is 9 overs bowled, 2 for 61. So the run rate just a tick under 7. They need 67 off 66 deliveries. So a run a ball from here sounds manageable. 8 wickets in hand. They've lost McKay for 16 and Hicks for 29. Phillips and Curtis at the crease.
So the game's tightened up a bit. Just managed to get themselves back into it. Another one of the brother combinations in this South Australian team. These guys aren't twins, are they?
I believe they are.
They are twins as well.
They're not. They're
Two sets of
identical.
twins.
And now these are harder to tell apart than the Goodman brothers.
Are they really? These
your
are
guess is
the
as good as
Patterson
mine from up
twins.
here.
Ben and Adam.
So Ben.
This is Ben. Yeah.
Bowl the 10th over.
So he bowled one over.
He has. Into Phillips. Turned off the pad. Slight fumble at short, fine leg. So just the 1 run as a result of that. Eustace Smith doing the fielding.
He's been involved in the team the last couple of years, Eustace Smith.
Yeah, Jimmy, he's a good character. He's definitely one the boys get around.
So just, as is often the case at a fall of a wicket, just tighten things up a fraction in the last 5 or 10 minutes. But they need more wickets just to, given the run rate situation, perhaps a difficult wicket to get in on. Curtis just drives back down the track, fielded in his own follow-through enthusiastically by Patterson.
They were deceived by the slow bowling of Patrick Whelan a bit earlier, Jordan. They were making their way back to the pavilion or to the umbrella area where the rest of the team was. And this is a very wide delivery that's
it's gone straight through. Yeah, it was cut square of the wicket.
The nutmeg, and they were both practicing. I think that's the other brother, isn't it? They were both practicing their shots that they unfortunately weren't able to portray while they were batting. Obviously, look like they're passionate young boys, the two Patterson boys.
Yeah, they love their cricket. I don't think he'll be too happy with his brother there, but
no Christmas present this time.
No, for Adam.
Yeah, they sure are, and this whole squad is, which is why it's such a pleasure to be involved with them. Unfortunately, towards the end of our innings, they probably went a little bit, tried to swing too hard and just sort of lift their heads and played and missed a few instead of just getting bat on ball.
You can't afford, obviously, misfields like that with the target as it is at the moment, but as I said, they're bowling okay now, just tightening things up. So Curtis late here in the 10th over. Facing Patterson, turned off the hip. Mopped up at short fine leg again by Eustace Smith. And the score is 2 for 68, 60 runs required.
You've got arguably one of the best blind cricketers in the country, Steve Palmer. Tell us a bit about him.
Chicken, yep.
Chicken?
Yep.
And clever nickname.
Yeah,
I like it. Good nickname.
I used to play footy with the Chicken and Adam Palmer.
Yep, so Chicken, well...
Good nickname.
I never knew his name was Steve for a couple of months after meeting him, but everyone knows him as Chicken. He likes being known as Chicken, so he's a great player and a great person as well. He's a passionate cricketer, cricket lover, and he works as hard as anyone at his game, and that's why he's so successful.
So it's 2 for 70 off 10, 58 required. What's your best nickname you've played sport with or against?
Oh, I haven't played a lot of decent sport. I'll have to have a think about it. There's a bloke called Twisty Franklin.
Yeah.
Because he used to grow certain substances in twisty packets in his wardrobe of his house.
Yes.
And they called him Twisty, so I just thought that was a terrific nickname.
We used to play football with a rather large guy on our side who was he wasn't particularly quick. We used to play football and cricket with him. He was actually quite slow, and his nickname was Milo. It's because his nickname was Milo because he wasn't quick. So,
I like it. Very clever. There are some good ones out there.
We had a guy by the name of, he might be listening actually, a guy by the name of Brian Moore. We went to a vote count one year for the league best and fairest, and one of the umpires had written his name as Brain instead of Brian. So sure enough, his name for the rest of time became Brain.
Yeah. Nicknames are great. I always remember my brother. He was best man at this guy Michael Godfrey's wedding, and his nickname was Frey. And I didn't know his name was Michael. I just called him Frey. Nicknames didn't worry me. But my old man, being Irish, he hated nicknames. He just wanted to call people by their right name. And they were getting changed at Mum and Dad's house for the wedding, because it was just down the road from Mum and Dad's house many moons ago. And they've turned up, and Dad goes, "Hello, Frey. Oh, what's your real name? Don't you people," or he used another term, "don't you people have proper names?" There was a bloke called Simon George, whose nickname was Walt, or two names.
All two names.
I think one of the best football nicknames I've ever heard is Joel Corey Smithy.
Smithy, yeah.
Yeah. Because they rang one day.
He didn't have a surname.
Corey speaking which one, and they didn't know it was him or Corey Enright because they used to share a house together. And so in the end, they just said, "Oh, we'll just call you Smithy." It is a great nickname.
We used to have a guy we played football with. His name was Morton Briggs. What do you reckon his name was? Morton Briggs. His nickname was Bug.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Morton Bay Bug.
So we'll see what McQueen can do here. His nickname's just Macca, is it, Jordan?
Yeah, just Macca. Yeah.
Got any unusual ones apart from chicken in this lineup?
Not that I'm aware of. It probably is, but haven't found them all out yet.
56 needed. It's the 11th over. It's flicked behind square. Nice shot of his pads by Curtis. Picked up a couple of metres inside the boundary. And they get a couple of runs to go to 2 for 74 in the 11th, chasing a further 54 to win. So it's almost at a run of ball. McQueen issuing instructions, telling Ben Patterson to become a little bit straighter at mid-off, as you can see on the screen. He gets beaten. It's called a wide. Yes, a marginal wide down leg side, I would have thought. Stopped behind the stumps by May.
Up to 12, Curtis. Phillips is on 15.
Queen just working hard. Curtis square driving. Getting one. Beating Chisholm. They think about a second. Patterson, Adam, comes in off the boundary.
In the Big Bash today, Brisbane Heat got bowled out for 100 by Adelaide. And
AB didn't get too many.
Two. And they got, Anessa got him, and Adelaide had none for 26 off 4. So looks like Adelaide will do the exact reverse of what Brisbane did to them at the Gabba about 3 days ago.
The best bowling team in the comp, I reckon. McQueen bowls, and
when they get it right, yeah, for sure.
Hits the base of the bat. Another run on the board.
Rashid Khan is a ripper, as we know.
Yes.
They're obviously putting Michael Nessa into that lineup.
So you follow Essendon like the old man?
No, I don't actually. I'm a Port Adelaide supporter.
Right.
Yeah, so...
Well, makes sense. You do live over there.
Yeah. Obviously, the old man had a few connections at Port Adelaide in his role, so they used to throw a few Guernseys and merch at me. It sort of got me over the line as a young kid.
A bribery.
It's a full toss by McQueen, and the fielders are in close. And it'll almost go to the boundary. You know, it is collected. A couple of metres inside.
Are you guys allowed to have friends at Barrack for the Crows or not really?
Yeah, it's not on the day. We're not friends, but if it's not the showdown day, it's totally fine. Most of my mates are actually Crows supporters, so yeah, they give me a bit of stick for the last few years. But yeah, both teams are in a little bit of trouble at the moment. So I was
going to say there'd be a bit to give them back in recent times.
Yeah.
It's passionate, isn't it? I mean, they do hate each other, don't they?
It is. Yeah, it's a great rivalry.
It is. I mean, the matches are great.
Rivalries in sport.
The matches are great in the AFL.
Unbelievable showdowns.
And they should be putting them on a Saturday night on free-to-air television in Melbourne. But Channel 7 doesn't believe in that, which just flabbergasts me. I mean, last year's match when Port won comfortably, it was a good result for your team, Jordan. But generally, the matches have been brilliant.
Yep.
And great for the game, but they're either tucked away as a twilight match, or the last match on Sunday, or even the first match on Sunday, or the second interstate match, because they put a big blockbuster Melbourne match on.
Well, the year before, Port won pretty much after the siren with Motlop, and in the other game, Adelaide won with a controversial goal where they hit the post. So.
Correct. So coming into the attack is Chisholm, following his leggies.
Brenton Forsyth.
Brenton Forsyth, sorry. Number 11, that's right.
Yep.
Couple of guys with beards. Chisholm wears 14, so he was dismissed early.
Brought in as a pinch hitter, a bit up the order.
And it's swept away, and it's not taken cleanly by Eustace Smith, and it'll go to the boundary for 4.
I wonder about that section of the ground too, where he misfielded that. We saw that earlier.
We did.
Where I just wonder whether there's
a
divot or an uneven patch of ground where, to offer excuse for the fielders, there have been 2 that have just bounced away from fieldsmen in that exact spot of the ground.
Phillips batting well, though. 2 for 83, Victoria. in the 12th over. They need a further 45. Forsyth again, giving it air. And he was looking to hit that out of the ground in the same spot where Chris McQueen connected. Have a cow corner. But he missed it. Well taken by May. He does a good job. Well, his nickname's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, you can definitely see his indoor cricket skills on display here. No pads. And if you've noticed him batting, he would have just been wearing...
Phil for LBW, he's forwards.
Yeah, he wears his indoor inners to bat, even in the hardball comp. So
really?
Yeah, you would have noticed there weren't too much padding on those gloves if you got one in the finger, but
that's missing
what he's
leg.
comfortable with.
Yeah, I think so. He's landing them pretty well here, Forsyth.
Yes, he is.
2 for 83 in the 12th. Gives it air again, and Phillips plays, doesn't score.
That was another pretty good delivery.
Yeah, it was.
So the second one-day international between Australia and India, about an hour and a half away from starting.
Gives that one more air, and he completely misses it, Phillips, but it's not taken cleanly by May either.
And it was a wide.
It's called a wide. Gee, these leg side wides, I know that
yeah,
nearly all of them are given, but some of
I
them
agree with you. I mean, sometimes they're missing the stumps by a coat of paint.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Can't be, I mean, that one a little bit more so, but it's only missed his leg. He's bowling at
That's
the batsman
right.
and missed the leg
Correct.
by a centimetre.
It's not as if it's a stray.
No.
He's aiming leg stump. This is short and chopped away, but not very far by Phillips, who's just getting a little bit impatient with his inability to hit it as well as he would like. And that must have banged into the knee of Scott May then, Jordan, I think, looking at
I
the
think
big
he's
screen.
carrying a little bit of an injury.
Is he?
After he battled, he slipped over in change rooms. Apparently there's a bit of a slippery corner, and he landed quite heavily on his knee, so he's been limping around most of the innings out there, but he's a tough character, so I'm sure he'll push through.
So most of the players from this team from the city or from the country, mixture?
A majority of metro area. I'd say almost all apart from Macca, and there might be one other.
In terms of your programs overall, though, do you get a lot of involvement in regional areas in South Australia? Is that growing as well?
So we have a lot of regional staff
Yep.
based out in different locations, and they run a majority of the programs in their regions. Myself and Matt Lucas is also here away with the South Australian squads in the diversity and inclusion space. Certainly offer a hand of support, and if anyone has any ideas, we do the best we can to help them with their programs. And obviously we identify areas where it's strong, particularly Indigenous areas in the regional area, to go out with our promotional material and Indigenous programs. And the launch of the new All West Cricket Blast Indigenous shirts has been great. That was launched in Adelaide just before the Adelaide Test match as well, where we had 17 Aboriginal kids come up from Port Lincoln for a couple of days and got a training session with James Pattinson and Marnus Labuschagne and one other as well. Can't just escape me for a sec.
So the numbers of Indigenous players playing cricket, has it increased? And why do you think for a long time it's been a bit of a battle to get them to play? We know they love their footy.
Yeah, footy is not a big reason for it, but footy is their number one passion, and it always will be. Obviously, they got the role models in football that they don't quite have in the cricket landscape yet. The Buddy Franklins, Cyril Riolis, and all that, those sort of types that young Indigenous kids see, and they want to be the next one of them. In cricket, biggest name, Jason Gillespie, obviously South Australian.
Ash Gardner's becoming a big name, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ash Barty is Indigenous as well. So the game of tennis has increased massively especially in South Australia, which I've noticed for Indigenous kids.
I think it helps too over there. I know it's a competition sport that they're finally getting a tournament.
Yeah,
It's a long time since they've had a tournament.
Yes, yeah. It's been massive for Adelaide, the city of Adelaide, with the talent that's come over this year prior to the Oz Open. So I know they were doing well with ticket sales
Here's McQueen bowling and driven. They're getting a lot of singles in this over. Again, it was a well-up ball that almost managed to York Curtis. So 13 overs gone, 2 for 88, 7 overs remaining, 42 balls, and they need 40. But they've still got 8 wickets left. You would back Victoria.
Yeah.
But we're not seeing a lot of aggressive shots at the moment. So I think the South Australians are bowling pretty tightly at the moment.
At the end of the 14th over, so one after this, South Australia were 3 for 99. Victoria are 2 for 88, 1 over earlier. So the comparison is not too far away. So depending on where they are at the end of this over, we know Victoria finished very, very well. But South Australia on those numbers would draw some inspiration from that.
They would. It's all about trying to choke Victoria now. So it's up to Curtis and Phillips to try and rotate the strike. They need a boundary or 2, I would have thought. And if they don't get those boundaries, that's where the game really starts to become a battle of nerves for the Victorians, where they need to take risks.
Yeah, but it's not a
that are unnecessary.
Yeah, not a consistent.
And then they become necessary. Yep. Not yet, but they'll need to take necessary risks if they get good bowling like that right on the spot, forcing Phillips to play that back to Forsyth. That's an excellent delivery.
It's 1 over, like that Big Bash game where the Renegades played Adelaide a while ago, and Renegades were cruising and lost 3 for 1 in 1 over. Definitely in strife, May.
Yeah,
well, after that.
They've nearly got to make a change there, I would have thought. Jordan, he's not moving well at all, Scott, mate.
Who else could take the gloves?
Macca is good.
I'm sure he could. He's a bit like Gavin Hicks, he can do anything. Yeah,
he does it all. But I think they'd be pretty reluctant to, because they will want May out there, and I think he's probably best off behind the stumps. So.
Good bowling by Forsyth. A lot the way again. He's giving it air. It's then dipping quickly, and he allowed that to slide off the bottom of the bat, Phillips. But again, only to backward point. So there's not a lot of runs coming in a hurry at the moment, mainly singles, drips and drabs. Curtis uses his feet but doesn't put that away. The full toss from Forsyth, fills up his own bowling. 1 run so far from 4 balls, and the captain's happy. 14th over, 2 for 89.
Yeah, another thing on Macca as well, he's a great leader. All the boys out there, they love him.
15th over, I should say. Cut away, it beats the covers, and fielder not happy. Too good for him, Forsyth. Right through him, goes to the boundary for 4. Just a bit short, that one from Forsyth, not the right length. And it is 2 for 93. That boundary very handy.
You're right the first time, 14th over. Scoreboard.
It is the 14th over.
It is.
Right.
So I said 3 for 99 by comparison. At the end of this over, South Australia were. So Victoria might be 1 wicket better off.
Forsyth bowls to Curtis. Curtis pulls this one along the ground. Lovely straight drive. The 2 fielders there for protection are inside the circle. They weren't going to be stopping that one, and that goes down the boundary for Forsyth. Just a bit short by Forsyth. To him, it was a pretty good over. And he gives away 2 boundaries at the end, and he ruefully takes his cap from the umpire. Disappointed. But I still think he's bowled 2 reasonable overs there. So 2 for 93. Or was it 97?
93, I think.
It is?
I think.
It's waiting for the scoreboard to tick over.
Actually, no, you might have been right. Was there 2 boundaries in that over?
Yes, there was.
97, yep.
2 for 97. So 31 needed. 6 overs left. It's almost a runner ball, but the important thing for Victoria, they've got 8 wickets in hand, is one of the Goodman twins to come back in. This is Luke Goodman. Tried to hold the lower order together. How can you decipher between these 2?
One's got a really fat lip at the moment because he took a ball to the face in one of their training sessions during the week.
Is that Luke or Jesse?
I think it was Luke. So I'm not sure if you can see in a close-up.
Yeah.
He's slightly taller as well.
Is he?
But there's not a lot of noticeable difference, that's for sure.
And the other boys, you couldn't tell?
No.
You just see them in there.
Luke and Jesse did tell me at the start of the day, though, they hope that the commentators get their names right, because apparently last year they kept getting it wrong the whole time.
Well, only because we were given, and we'll say this, we were given the wrong numbers. So we do apologise for that.
There you go, Luke. There's your answer.
Sorry, Luke.
Glad they watched it back. That was nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
31 off 36.
I'm meticulous about trying to get the numbers right because I know that these guys go to a lot of trouble. And if they're watching, you've got to do a good job for them because they're doing the best they can and always doing a good job. There's a misfield here. I wanted the...
But Phillips probably, again, like we saw previously, just running straight past the stumps, assuming there was only one in it, and
again
removing any prospect of an additional run. They always say don't run on a misfield, and I think that was another example of it, but not without a chance.
Jonathan Mortimer at backward point, very slight figure. He played last year too, if my memory serves me right.
Yep, I believe so.
Goodman bowls. Curtis has been pretty solid. Plays from the crease. Might have taken a pretty good catch too. If it wasn't last year, it was the year before. I think he's been involved in the all three of the matches I've been lucky enough to broadcast. McQueen most certainly has got 83 the first time, 84 not out of 54 and 64 this time. So he knows how to bat well in finals. So 30 needed, 15th over. Goodman in again. This is a bit of a leading edge. It was a spooning ball by Curtis, but luckily for him, it lands safely on the offside. The fielders were deep. 2 for 99. It's getting a little bit nervous, no doubt. Tension building. Victoria in front because of the number of wickets they've lost, only 2. Hickson, Mackie. This is swung long and high and should be safe. It'll go for 4. That's a good shot. Getting plenty of it, Curtis. Swung through the ball, lusty blow down the ground, and they're past the century now, Victoria.
Good clean hit. Patient,
it was.
Yeah, patient
excellent
batting.
Shot.
They've just been treating each ball on its merits, pushing them around for ones and twos when it's been on and hitting the boundary balls away. They're now definitely considerably ahead by the direct comparison.
2 for 103, 25 needed. This is the 15th over. Goodman bowls, trying to work it away. It was Phillips that played that down the ground, so he's on strike at the moment. He's the bigger man than Curtis. It's a lovely bloke. Generally played pretty well, Phillips.
29 not out, 32 deliveries.
Another solidly built individual on this Victorian side. Able to get plenty of power. When he lets one hit, he tries to hit the next one. Well taken by May, despite being inconvenienced with that knee injury. That was travelling, and gee, he does well to keep close up behind the stumps because Goodman is reasonably quick. He'd be fast medium, Jordan, wouldn't he, at least?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got great hand-eye coordination, May. Obviously, his indoor cricket skills come into play a little bit with those, and very brave with no pads on up there, that's for sure. I wouldn't be able to do it.
No way.
So McQueen has bowled out of the others. Goodman with 1, Patterson 2, Waldhooter 2, Jesse Goodman 2, and Forsyth 2 up their sleeve for what they choose to do here with the closing overs. Forsyth will get his 3rd over now, bowling from the nets end, the practice end of the stadium, to Curtis with
25 needed off 30 dash.
With 8 wickets in hand. So Victoria should be able to knock this one around. It hasn't been an easy pitch all day, and it does throw up challenges even to set batsmen. Curtis is on 25 off 20. Should be able to knock it around from here. Victoria, that scooped in the air just wide of mid-wicket, comfortably fielded by McQueen, but I'll get the single.
Wry smile by Curtis. I think he felt he might have dodged a bullet then.
So
when he gets it right, Forsyth, he's troubling them.
Phillips just plays no footwork and on the bounce straight to McQueen again, and might have hurt him a little bit. Or is he just a little,
Got him where it hurts, boys?
Yeah, I think it might have. Just an awkward bounce. He tried to get him behind it, and that's one of those ones where I think it's amusing to everyone else except the person involved.
Knowing Macquarie, he's probably having a laugh at himself, actually.
Do you think it's as amusing as it was?
I think it might have hit him on the inside of the leg and bounced up.
shouldn't be amusing because
It shouldn't be
hurts.
amusing. It
I
does
mean,
hurt.
I've been hit there.
Oh, it does hurt. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
it's a shocker.
I don't know why we've got this.
We always laugh.
I don't know why,
it's
because,
the
yeah, but
Australian style
yeah.
of toilet humour.
But we know how much it hurts.
Oh,
It's, yeah.
I think Scotty May's having a bit of a laugh at it.
Scotty is. Oh, Scotty. Be nice.
We've seen it in the Big Bash where some of the batsmen that have been mic'd up have copped one there, short pitch delivery or something that they've either cut back into their.
Is the fader turned down quickly?
Yeah, it is turned down reasonably quickly. I think Richie Benaud, one of his famous bits of commentary over in England was, I think it was with Bob Willis actually, and David Boone got hit in that area, and Bob Willis said it's hit him on the inside of the right leg, and Richie Benaud said it's also hit him on the inside of the left leg as well. But yeah, that wasn't pleasant.
Yeah.
You can probably hear through some of the effects, Mike. It's been deceptively windy today. So they're in the wars, the South Australians. We see May hobbling around just off this group, and McQueen still taking in some deep breaths. It's most unpleasant. All the males listening, I'm sure, are well aware.
I mean, you get a deep pain straight away.
Oh,
too.
yeah, yeah.
It's shocking.
No, it's not good.
Should not laugh about it, but we do. I mean, we do. We're just strange cats
It
in that way.
quite literally takes your breath away.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. As you can see from McQueen there, just stretching, and he's had a good day at the office, bowled
Yeah,
pretty
he's
well,
been
made
terrific.
64.
What sort of captain is he?
He's a vocal captain.
Is
yeah, no, he's a really good leader. The players will love him, as I said earlier, and a very strategic,
likes doing it?
smart captain. Sorry?
He likes doing it?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
He leads from the front anyway. He'd be, even if he wasn't named captain, he'd be the first person to come up with ideas and start moving the field and bowling changes and all that. So they rely quite heavily on him to lead this team. He's got that experience on his head. He's got a young family at home, so he's probably glad to get away for the week, actually.
Looks like he embraces the responsibility, seems to have that personality, but struggling
He's in a bit of trouble.
walk properly at the moment. That looked like he did a decent old number on him.
Was travelling, wasn't
Oh,
he?
yeah.
He's a big man, Phillips.
So Forsyth continuing to Phillips. He actually saved some runs.
Yeah. Probably
McQueen.
take the boundary, I reckon.
Sacrifice that it was. And now Phillips goes long, down towards long on, bouncing away for 4. Victoria strengthen their grip on this title, 2 for 108 within 20 runs of victory.
So without being a bearer of bad tidings, Jordan, in your role, how do you address the players? I mean, it's all about participation and having fun, but when you get to a final like anyone, we've all got this competitive edge in us. We want to win it, don't we? I mean, you've got into 3 finals, which is a mighty effort, and it appears at this stage you won't get the chocolates in any of the 3. I mean, how do you make a positive spin on that? I suppose there are plenty of positives, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we don't come here to win, but it's a bonus. When you get to the final, everyone wants to win.
Of course
Everyone's competitive, but the credit is that they're all out there
100%.
playing and representing their state, which is already a great achievement just to be here. So that's one positive, but it's about keeping the attitudes up. This will be the 2nd year in a row if Victoria continue on with the run chase that they're going at the moment, that they knocked us off in the final of with these 2 teams. So they're going to be disappointed for a while, but we just got to make sure they keep their heads up, stay positive.
Full toss turned around the corner by Phillips, so should be able to get a couple for that one as it's knocked down in the deep by Eustace Smith. And they move to 2 for 110, 18 required.
We'll be sure to give them the support. We back our teams in very much, and the coaches do a great job of keeping the attitude positive, and just say there's always next year. That's a great thing about sport as well. It's either next week or there's next year, so
Yep.
That's why we all love it.
So Phillips, that one struck him on the patch slow. Rudy Kurtzen finger lift, and he's out.
That is very slow. That is theatrical.
And Phillips, a little bit of a stare with a wry smile at the umpire. Take it perhaps as badly as it looked like he was going to, but he's out all the same. Is it too little, too late? The handshakes come from the South Australian players, an appreciation for his innings. Still seeing the captain, McQueen, can't get a jog up. He's just hobbling over to join his teammates in the huddle. He gets a few hugs. He's in a fair degree of discomfort, but Phillips falls LBW. It's 3 for 110, still inside the 16th over. Phillips falling for 35 off 37 deliveries.
He did his job, but again, it was another innings where he got in, but got out when he was set. Disappointed.
So the new man at the crease, promoted up the order, is Hopkins, who took 2 for 16 or 2 for 17 from 4 overs and took a catch. So he's already had a pretty good day. Would be in some sort of calculations for player of the match.
First time I've seen at a T20 match, the opening bowlers, both opening bowlers bowled out.
Yeah.
That I can remember.
Straight up, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there have been other matches, but
it's unusual,
matches that I've seen.
Only if you had the opposition 6 for 30 or something would you consider that.
Another
And that's
one,
come off the
Jordan
pad onto the stumps. He's on a hat-trick. And just maybe another twist in the tail of this contest, as this over has had everything. The captain's been hit, unfortunately, in the Jats crackers. There was a boundary down the ground, but they lost the ball for a couple of minutes. And now we've had back-to-back wickets. So that decision to promote Hopkins up the order has backfired. Again, the equation is in favour of Victoria, but 2 wickets in 2 balls. Hat-trick on, that's hit him on the hip and gone back onto off stump. Going for the big old ugly hoik over mid-wicket. 4 for 110. And that was the end of the over, I believe.
We've happened.
So
That's
again,
happened a few times. There was a player, I think, today that was left on a hat-trick for New South Wales in the blind final, the deaf final, and didn't get a chance to have a crack at that hat-trick.
Might have been Williams. Might have been.
Yeah, was.
So this is the team hat-trick ball, and then we'll have the legitimate hat-trick ball most likely at the start of the very next over. Jesse Goodman to bowl this. He's picked up a couple of wickets.
Now, my memory serves me right. Lachlan McRae was in at the end when it got a bit frantic for Victoria when Hicks went out, and they lost a couple of quick wickets. And we had that situation, as I mentioned earlier, Jordan, where I think South Australia thought, and they looked at the scoreboard, that the scores were still level when Victoria thought they'd won. Victoria had actually won, and they just stopped in the middle of the pitch and started celebrating. And South Australia with the bowls off and thought, hang on, it's a tie, but it ended up being a Victorian win. So who knows what could happen yet. 4 overs, 24 balls, 18 runs.
6 wickets in hand. So Curtis on strike, pushing that one away. And it's fielded down there. And just the 1 run fielding done by Mortimer in the deep. So that gets the established batsman off strike in Curtis, and they get to have a crack at the new batsman in Lachlan McRae. Curtis is 27 not out.
Wonder how the other batsmen for the Victorians are feeling under the umbrella near the grandstand. Just starting to get a bit nervous, I would have thought.
So McRae, first ball, turns down the leg side, it races away, it picks up speed and it goes for 4, and that eases the pressure. That'll be leg byes as it runs off the hip, and that closes the equation now to 13 required. For 115.
All teams today have decided not to have the legitimate fine leg in place. They've been square or even the third man in place. More fine leg because there have been some balls that haven't been called wides that have been legitimately on the leg stump, and there's either been some leg byes or some faint edges.
Push down the track, no run.
Or glances, and they've resulted in boundaries.
17th over, 4 for 115, chasing 128 to win.
Now, McRae, boys, was the bowler, even though he got a wicket in that over. Great catch taken by young Whelan. Bowled 5 wides in the second last over, and I was wondering whether they could come back to haunt him. Not yet at this stage.
Goodman in, and again that's turned down the leg side. Again it's picking up speed, and again it goes for 4.
Thought Mortimer might have had it covered, but it just got away from him. Again, he wasn't fine enough.
Might Be now time for his own adjustment. A little bit down there in the field.
I think the umpire called that wide as well, so it's 5 runs. Huge.
So an extra delivery as well.
Didn't he get an edge on it, though? Let's have a look at the replay.
Yeah, I thought it clipped something on the way through. But
it clipped. I think it might have clipped the leg of the wicketkeeper.
Yeah. That was the deflection. So 4 wides, ended up good umpiring in the end. So in it again. McRae just drops it in the offside. Good running from Curtis to scamper down there. And it's been a productive over, 11 runs from it thus far. Still with a couple of balls to go. Victoria, after that little hiccup. Now, are we going to get to that over, which would allow Forsyth the chance to have a crack at his hat-trick?
Hope so.
I hope so as well. 7 required.
Just add to the drama.
Still a couple to come.
He's batted pretty well, Curtis. I think the top 4 have all done their job for Victoria.
Yeah, 29, 16, 35, and now 27 not out for Curtis. Curtis just pushes that back down the ground, no run. The skipper, the injured skipper, Chris McQueen, gets across. Gets a little boot to it.
He's still limping a bit.
Yeah.
Must have been travelling.
Yeah, that'll hurt for a while. So it should be the final ball of the 17th over. It's driven hard and it beats the field and it'll race away for 4. So
great cover drive.
This is the over for Victoria, where they've put one and probably both hands on the championship, and they move along to 4 for 125, and that is the conclusion of the over. So 3 to go, 3 overs to go, 3 runs required, and Curtis 31 not out. Might just be able to guide his team home. So hopefully at least a sense of theatre. It will be Forsyth that will get the chance now to bowl his 4th over in what in all likelihood will be the final over of the day.
Could be the final ball, Dash.
It could be, but first and foremost, he is on a hat-trick. Could be a terrific personal moment in an otherwise what looks like being a tough day.
I thought he's bowled pretty well. I think it's been one of the many highlights for the South Australians. They've played this game out, and it's tough being a leg spin bowler, landing it, and he's landed more than he hasn't.
2 for 21 from his 3 overs. On a hat-trick at the start of the 18th over. McRae is the batsman, Forsyth in. Surprised they haven't crowded the bat. He's beaten it outside off stump. Pretty close. And he knew it too.
Jordan had a big wry smile on his face right next to me, Dash.
It would have been a nice way to finish, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been indeed.
Does he get excited?
I imagine so. I've never seen him take a hat-trick.
And that's just run off the outside edge down to sort of short third man for no runs.
Just make them work for it. That's what they're doing, South Australia.
Yeah, field in. And that's turned around the corner, and that may well be it. It's racing away, and it is. Victoria salutes in the ID Championship final on this Friday afternoon. Victoria win by 6 wickets with 16 balls to spare. 4 for 129 as the remaining members of the crew jump up off their chairs from under the marquee and run out to celebrate in the middle of the pitch. And lightning strikes twice for Victoria.
It does. 2 wins in a row in the ID title. They bowled really well on the back end, and they batted steadily right throughout their entire innings, despite losing 2 wickets in 2 balls. Chris McQueen is devastated, but that means it means so much to him. A couple of his players came over to him. He's just sort of waved them away. When you lose, it does hurt, Jordan, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, we've talked about participation and how good this competition is, and to get into 3 finals. I mean, at the start of the tournament, if you had have achieved that, you would have been really happy, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly right. Successful tournament for South Australia. Unfortunate results didn't go our way today, but that's cricket, that's T20 cricket. Macca wears his heart on his sleeve, so you can see how much it means to him. Second year in a row, obviously. He made 80 odd last year, I think, in the final, so he'll be back again next year, I'm sure. But it'll take a bit of time, but we'll bounce back, come back better than ever.
The Victorian players are consoling him. He still doesn't look all that well, does he?
No, he doesn't.
They just didn't get enough runs from other players to support McQueen. The Victorians, when you in your batting lineup, have 15, 29, 35, and Curtis also made a decent contribution as well with 31. It was a good effort by the Victorians. Good bowling by Forsyth at the end, 2 for 25. Jesse Goodman bowled okay, 1 for 32. Luke Goodman was excellent, 1 for 11 from 3 overs. So they did a pretty good job, but overall, it wasn't enough. 8 for 127. South Australia started well, but then lost 5 for 28 at the end of their innings.
That was the burst, yeah.
Well, young Whelan getting 3 for 8 with
Yep.
his slow medium paces, which became slow as he took the pace off them, bowled very cleverly.
They were on track for 145-ish,
Yeah, they were.
and 145-ish would have made this quite a tight finish.
Tollian's 2 for 17. Ben Smith 2 for 19. Good contributions everywhere. Hicks bowled well at the start. None for 19. Hopkins did a good job as well, claiming a couple of wickets. And then in reply, all the batsmen got starts. Mackie and Hicks got them away nicely. Phillips, Hopkins was out for a duck, but Curtis did a good job. So good effort by Victoria, but great effort by South Australia to make all 3 finals. New South Wales winning the blind match, which of course was a match that was interrupted by rain, 13 overs aside.
Great run,
Lindsay Heaven and Stubbs did a great job there. Magnificent effort, New South Wales against the South Australian team in the deaf or hearing impaired match, where they had them 3 for 3 and bowled them out for 64 and won that match comfortably. And then Victoria and South Australia involved in a really competitive final in the ID. Jordan, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on what you're doing. Say good day to your old man for me, and I hope things go well with your brother with his cricket career. Bailey going really well for West Torrens, and let's hope you continue with all the good work with the obviously the Indigenous and multicultural and inclusion space. It's going really well for you.
Thank you very much. We'll do. Thanks,
Good on
guys.
you. Jordan Capel joining us. Dash, it's been a pleasure, been a big day.
Yeah, it's been a great
enjoyed
day.
every minute of it. Thanks to Rick and the team
Fantastic
for
cricket.
putting it all together for us. Thanks to Cricket Australia for allowing it to happen today, and to all the staff here at McDonald Park and all the other grounds in Geelong. It's been another successful week, and may it continue for the National Cricket Inclusion Championships. And I hope all the guys have a great night tonight at the award ceremony. Thanks to my son Alex for also being around and being the general gopher as he is for these big days for us. But well done to Victoria. They've beaten South Australia. They're the champs in the ID Championships, and New South Wales have had a good day winning both the blind and also the deaf titles. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for watching the feed on Cricket Australia.